Welcome back to Bloodborne Lore, to Sleep 2, where we dive deep into the cosmic horror and tragic beauty of From Software's most haunting masterpiece. Tonight, we embark on perhaps our most disturbing journey yet, into the nightmare realm where innocence becomes horror, where motherhood becomes violation, and where the cycle of vengeance transcends death itself. We're exploring the tragic tale of the Orphan of Kos, arguably Bloodborne's most emotionally devastating and viscerally disturbing boss encounter. Over the next few hours, we'll uncover the cosmic tragedy that birthed this nightmare creature, explore the sins of Byrgenwerth that echo through eternity, and witness how the death of a great one can spawn horrors beyond imagination. So settle in, get comfortable, and prepare to descend into the deepest waters of cosmic horror as we explore one of gaming's most profound meditations on guilt, innocence, and the price of forbidden knowledge. The Shores of Nightmares. Setting the stage. To understand the Orphan of Kos, we must first understand the realm in which it dwells, the hunter's nightmare, that twisted dimension where the most blood-drunk and cursed hunters are condemned to relive their sins for eternity. But the orphan's domain is special, even within this realm of perpetual torment. Here, where the nightmare meets the sea, reality bends and warps under the weight of cosmic grief and ancient crimes. The fishing hamlet that serves as the orphan's domain is no ordinary nightmare landscape. It exists at the intersection of multiple realities. The physical world where terrible crimes were committed, the nightmare realm where those crimes echo eternally, and the cosmic dimension where great ones exist beyond mortal comprehension. This convergence creates a space where past, present, and future collapse into a single moment of infinite suffering. The hamlet itself tells a story written in architectural decay and supernatural horror. What was once a simple fishing village, where honest folk made their living from the sea's bounty, has become a monument to violation and cosmic retribution. The buildings stand at impossible angles, defying earthly physics as they lean toward the corpse of Kos that dominates the shoreline. Time flows differently here. The moment of the hamlet's destruction is stretched across eternity, each second of terror and anguish expanded into an endless nightmare. The geography of this place reflects the psychological landscape of trauma and guilt. The winding paths that lead down to the shore mirror the descent into madness that claimed both the perpetrators and victims of the hamlet's destruction. Every stone, every weathered piece of wood, every corrupted fountain speaks to the transformation of the innocent into the monstrous, the pure into the profane. The residents of this nightmare hamlet are themselves testament to the cosmic horror that has infected this place. These are not mere undead or transformed humans, but consciousness trapped in states of perpetual suffering. They exist in a constant state of dying, experiencing their final moments over and over again, unable to find peace or resolution. Their hollow eyes reflect not just death, but the knowledge that death itself has been corrupted by cosmic forces beyond their understanding. The wells that dot the hamlet landscape are particularly significant, serving as conduits between different layers of reality. These are not sources of fresh water, but portals through which cosmic influence seeps into the physical world. The liquid that bubbles up from their depths is neither water nor blood, but something far more disturbing: the distilled essence of cosmic suffering, the tears of entities whose grief transcends mortal comprehension. The most striking feature of this nightmare realm is the massive corpse of Kos herself, beached upon the shore like some impossible whale. But this is no ordinary death. This is the destruction of a cosmic entity whose demise has torn holes in the fabric of reality itself. The corpse serves as both monument and warning, a physical manifestation of the consequences that flow from attacking beings whose existence operates on scales beyond human understanding. The waters that surround the hamlet are perhaps the most disturbing element of all. This is not ordinary seawater. but a medium through which cosmic influence flows freely. These waters carry memories, emotions, and fragments of consciousness across vast distances of space and time. They serve as a conduit for the orphan's grief and rage, allowing its influence to seep into other dimensions and affect events far removed from its immediate domain. The sky above the hamlet reflects the cosmic disturbance that has infected this place. Here, the normal cycles of day and night have been replaced by an eternal twilight that speaks to the suspension of natural law. The pale, sickly light that illuminates the scene is not sunlight or moonlight, but the glow of cosmic energies leaking through the cracks in reality. This light reveals truths that would be better left hidden, exposing the full horror of what has transpired in this cursed place. The very air in the hamlet carries the weight of accumulated suffering. Each breath draws in not just the salt spray of the sea, but the distilled essence of every scream, every moment of terror, every fragment of innocence destroyed. This atmosphere of concentrated horror affects all who enter, gradually wearing down their sanity and moral compass until they become part of the nightmare themselves. The architecture of the hamlet reflects the cosmic violation that has occurred here. Buildings that should stand straight lean at impossible angles, as if reality itself has been bent by the weight of the crimes committed. Windows open onto vistas that should not exist, revealing glimpses of other dimensions, where different versions of these events play out in endless variation. Doors open onto rooms that exist in multiple time periods, simultaneously, where past and present collapse into a single moment of eternal suffering. The fishing boats that lie scattered throughout the hamlet serve as reminders of the innocent purpose this place once served. These vessels, designed to harvest the sea's bounty, have been transformed into monuments to cosmic horror. Their nets, once used to catch fish, now seem designed to ensnare souls. Their hulls, once watertight against the ocean's fury, are now pierced by influences that seep in from other dimensions. The wells and fountains that once provided fresh water to the hamlet's residents have become conduits for cosmic corruption. The liquid that flows from them is neither pure nor polluted in any conventional sense, but rather exists in a state of cosmic ambiguity that defies categorization. This fluid carries within it the memory of every drop of water that ever touched the shores of this place, creating a medium through which past trauma continues to manifest in the present. The Great One called Kos, Mother of Nightmares. Before we can understand the orphan, we must first comprehend its mother, Kos, the Great One, whose death set in motion the cosmic horror that continues to unfold. Kos was not merely another of the incomprehensible entities that exist beyond human understanding. She was something far more specific and tragic, a mother whose very nature was defined by protection, nurturing, and the creation of life. Kos belonged to a category of great ones that some scholars have termed maternal entities, cosmic beings whose fundamental essence was intertwined with the concepts of birth, growth, and the nurturing of developing consciousness. Unlike other great ones, who might be indifferent to mortal affairs or actively hostile to human existence, Kos represented something closer to benevolence, though benevolence filtered through a cosmic perspective that made it difficult for humans to recognize or appreciate. The physical form that Kos manifested was itself a testament to her maternal nature. Her whale-like appearance was not arbitrary, but reflected her role as a life-giver and nurturer of developing consciousness. Whales, in many human cultures, are associated with wisdom, memory, and the deep mysteries of the ocean. They are creatures that nurture their young with exceptional devotion and maintain complex social bonds across vast distances. Kos embodied these qualities on a cosmic scale, serving as a protector and guide for forms of consciousness that existed beyond human understanding. The relationship between Kos and the sea was fundamental to her nature and purpose. She was not merely a creature that happened to live in the ocean, but rather an entity whose consciousness was intertwined with the very concept of water as a medium for life and memory. Through her connection to the sea, Kos could influence events across vast distances, guiding the development of consciousness and protecting vulnerable forms of life from cosmic threats. The fishing hamlet that became the site of her death was not chosen at random. This community had, over generations, developed a unique relationship with the sea that made them particularly sensitive to Kos's presence and influence. Their fishing practices, their understanding of ocean currents and weather patterns, their very way of life, had gradually evolved to be compatible with the cosmic forces that Kos represented. They had become, in essence, her chosen people, not through any formal covenant or religious practice, but through a natural alignment of purpose and understanding. The symbiotic relationship between Kos and the hamlet's residents was subtle but profound. She provided them with abundant catches, protected their boats from dangerous storms, and guided them away from the deep ocean dangers that could destroy entire fishing fleets. In return, they lived in harmony with the ocean's rhythms, taking only what they needed, and treating the sea with the respect due to a living entity rather than a mere resource to be exploited. This relationship existed largely below the threshold of conscious awareness for the hamlet's residents. They understood that their fortune in fishing was exceptional, that their community was blessed with prosperity and safety that other coastal settlements lacked, but they interpreted this good fortune through the lens of traditional folklore and religious practice, rather than recognizing the cosmic forces that were actually responsible for their protection. Kos's pregnancy was not a biological process in any sense that humans could comprehend. Great ones exist on scales of time and space that make conventional reproduction impossible. Instead, her pregnancy represented the development of a new form of cosmic consciousness, a being that would inherit her protective instincts and maternal nature, while possessing its own unique perspective and capabilities. The gestation period for this cosmic child was measured not in months, but in cosmic cycles that encompassed vast periods of time. During this process, Kos's influence over the ocean and its creatures intensified. Fish populations swelled beyond normal levels. Ocean currents shifted to bring favorable weather to coastal communities, and dangerous sea creatures retreated to deeper waters where they would not threaten surface dwellers. The scholars of Byrgenwerth, who eventually became aware of Kos's presence, initially misunderstood her nature completely. They interpreted her influence over the ocean as a form of control or domination, failing to recognize the nurturing and protective aspects of her consciousness. Their academic perspective, focused on understanding and categorizing cosmic forces, blinded them to the emotional and spiritual dimensions of Kos's existence. The communication between Kos and those sensitive enough to perceive her presence took forms that transcended ordinary language. She spoke through the rhythm of waves against the shore, through the migration patterns of sea creatures, through the subtle changes in water temperature and current that experienced fishermen could read like written text. Her voice was the voice of the ocean itself, vast, patient, and filled with love for the life that she protected. The protective barriers that Kos maintained around the hamlet were invisible to ordinary perception, but tangible to those who possessed insight into cosmic forces. These barriers did not prevent entry or exit, but rather created a zone of stability where the chaotic influences of other great ones could not easily penetrate. Within this protected space, human consciousness could develop and flourish without being overwhelmed by cosmic horror. The dreams that visited the hamlet's residents during Kos's presence were unlike the nightmares that plagued most of humanity's contact with great ones. Instead of visions of cosmic horror and existential dread, they experienced dreams of deep waters, gentle currents, and the vast peace that exists in the ocean's depths. These dreams served as a form of communion with Kos, allowing limited contact between human and cosmic consciousness without the madness that usually resulted from such encounters. The seasonal cycles that governed the hamlet's activities were subtly influenced by Kos's cosmic perspective. The timing of fishing expeditions, the preparation for storms, the maintenance of boats and equipment. All of these mundane activities were guided by influences that operated on scales far larger than the residents could perceive. This guidance ensured not only their physical prosperity, but also their spiritual well-being, protecting them from the kind of existential despair that afflicted many other communities. The children born in the hamlet during Kos's presence were marked by subtle differences that would only become apparent in retrospect. They possessed an intuitive understanding of ocean currents and weather patterns that exceeded normal human capability. They showed remarkable resistance to the fear and madness that usually resulted from exposure to cosmic forces. Most significantly, they displayed an instinctive compassion and protectiveness toward vulnerable members of their community that reflected Kos's own maternal nature. The art and culture that developed within the hamlet under Kos's influence reflected themes of protection, nurturing, and the deep mysteries of the sea. Their songs spoke of currents that carried lost fishermen safely home, of storms that passed by without causing damage, of catches so abundant that no one in the community ever went hungry. Their crafts incorporated symbols and patterns that, unknown to them, were forms of cosmic notation that helped maintain the protective barriers Kos had established. The religious practices of the hamlet residents, while maintaining the appearance of traditional folk beliefs, had gradually evolved to be compatible with Kos's cosmic nature. Their prayers for good weather and safe voyages were actually forms of communication with cosmic forces. Their rituals for blessing new boats and nets served to attune these tools to the protective influences that surrounded their community. The death of Kos was not a natural process, but a cosmic catastrophe that tore holes in the fabric of reality itself. When the scholars of Byrgenwerth finally located and attacked her, they were not simply killing a large sea creature, but destroying a cosmic entity whose existence was intertwined with the fundamental forces that govern life and consciousness. The consequences of this act would prove to be far more devastating than they could possibly have imagined. The sin of Byrgenwerth, academic hubris, and cosmic violation. The tragic tale of Kos and her orphan cannot be understood without examining the institution that orchestrated their destruction. Byrgenwerth College, the academic institution whose pursuit of forbidden knowledge would ultimately doom both themselves and countless innocents. The college represented the pinnacle of human intellectual achievement, a place where the brightest minds of their generation gathered to push the boundaries of understanding and unlock the deepest secrets of existence. Byrgenwerth's founding principles were noble enough: the advancement of human knowledge through rigorous academic inquiry and scientific investigation. The scholars who walked its halls were genuinely motivated by curiosity and the desire to understand the universe's fundamental nature. They saw themselves as pioneers of knowledge, brave explorers venturing into uncharted territories of understanding that could benefit all of humanity. The college's early years were marked by impressive achievements in conventional academic disciplines. Their natural philosophers made significant advances in understanding physics and chemistry. Their historians compiled comprehensive records of human civilization that revealed previously unknown patterns and connections. Their philosophers developed new frameworks for understanding consciousness, reality, and the relationship between mind and matter. However, as their knowledge expanded, the scholars of Byrgenwerth began to encounter phenomena that challenged the fundamental assumptions of conventional academic inquiry. Strange artifacts discovered in ancient ruins, displayed properties that defied known laws of physics. Historical records contained references to events and entities that seemed to exist outside normal causality. Most disturbing of all, their investigations into the nature of consciousness revealed evidence of minds that operated on scales and principles completely alien to human experience. The discovery of the old blood marked a turning point in Byrgenwerth's development from a conventional academic institution into something far more dangerous. This mysterious substance, with its ability to enhance human capabilities while gradually transforming those who consumed it, represented their first direct contact with cosmic forces that existed beyond the boundaries of ordinary reality. The initial response to the Old Blood's discovery was characterized by the same careful, methodical approach that had served the college well in their previous research. Samples were analyzed, effects were documented, and theories were developed to explain the substance's remarkable properties. The scholars approached their investigation with the confidence of academics who had successfully unlocked countless mysteries through patient observation and logical analysis. Master Willem, the college's provost, initially advocated for caution in dealing with the old blood and the cosmic forces it represented. His early writings show a clear understanding that they were encountering phenomena that might be beyond human comprehension or control. He warned his colleagues about the dangers of assuming that cosmic entities would operate according to principles that humans could understand or predict. However, as the research continued and the potential applications of cosmic knowledge became apparent, caution gradually gave way to ambition. The scholars began to see themselves not as observers of cosmic forces, but as potential participants in cosmic evolution. They convinced themselves that human intelligence, enhanced by cosmic knowledge, could achieve understanding and control over entities that had previously been beyond mortal comprehension. The development of techniques for detecting and tracking great ones represented a significant escalation in Byrgenwerth's cosmic research. These methods, based on combinations of advanced instrumentation and consciousness-altering substances, allowed the scholars to perceive entities and phenomena that existed partially outside normal space-time. The success of these techniques convinced many that they were approaching mastery over cosmic forces. The decision to actively hunt great ones, rather than simply observing them, marked the point where Byrgenwerth crossed the line from academic research into cosmic violation. This shift was gradual and was justified through a series of increasingly sophisticated rationalizations. The scholars convinced themselves that great ones were simply another form of natural phenomena to be studied and understood. They argued that the potential benefits of cosmic knowledge justified the risks involved in obtaining it. The expedition to the fishing hamlet was planned with the same methodical attention to detail that had characterized all of Byrgenwerth's previous research projects. The scholars carefully studied the legends and folklore surrounding Kos, developed techniques for approaching a great one in its natural habitat, and prepared instruments for extracting samples and documenting their observations. They approached this expedition with the confidence of professionals who had successfully completed dozens of similar research projects. The academic culture of Byrgenwerth had, by this point, evolved to prioritize discovery and understanding of all other considerations. The scholars had developed a professional detachment that allowed them to pursue their research without being hindered by conventional moral or ethical concerns. They viewed their work as existing on a plane above ordinary human affairs, governed by the pure pursuit of knowledge rather than mundane considerations of right and wrong. The relationship between Byrgenwerth and the established religious and political authorities had grown increasingly strained as their research progressed. The cosmic knowledge they had gained challenged fundamental assumptions about the nature of reality and humanity's place in the universe. The scholars found themselves increasingly isolated from mainstream society, which only reinforced their sense of themselves as an intellectual elite, with special responsibilities and privileges. The institutional structure of Byrgenwerth had evolved to support increasingly ambitious and dangerous research projects. Traditional academic safeguards and ethical review processes had been gradually eroded or bypassed. In the name of advancing cosmic understanding, the college had developed its own internal logic that justified methods and objectives that would have been unthinkable to conventional academic institutions. The scholars who participated in the expedition to the hamlet were among Byrgenwerth's most accomplished researchers. They had spent years preparing for this mission, developing specialized knowledge and techniques that would allow them to approach and study a great one in its natural habitat. They viewed themselves as pioneers who were advancing the boundaries of human knowledge into previously unexplored territories. The planning phase of the expedition involved extensive consultation with experts in maritime affairs, folklore specialists, and scholars of cosmic phenomena. The team developed detailed protocols for approaching Kos without triggering a defensive response, methods for safely extracting samples from a great one, and contingency plans for dealing with unexpected complications. They believed they had prepared for every reasonable possibility. The equipment that the expedition carried represented the cutting edge of Byrgenwerth's technological and mystical capabilities. They brought instruments capable of detecting cosmic energies, weapons designed specifically for use against otherworldly entities, and protective gear that they believed would shield them from the harmful effects of direct contact with Great One consciousness. The sophistication of their preparations reflected their confidence in their ability to control the situation. The philosophical framework that guided the expedition was based on the assumption that cosmic knowledge was inherently beneficial and that any entity possessing such knowledge should be willing to share it with sincere seekers of understanding. The scholars genuinely believed that Kos would recognize their academic intentions and cooperate with their research efforts. They could not conceive that a cosmic entity might have its own agenda that conflicted with their academic objectives. The communication attempts that the expedition made upon approaching Kos reflected their fundamental misunderstanding of her nature. They tried to establish contact using methods based on human language and logic, failing to recognize that cosmic consciousness operates according to completely different principles. Their inability to achieve meaningful communication reinforced their conviction that Kos was simply an animal, albeit an unusually large and powerful one. The decision to proceed with their research, despite their failure to establish communication, reflected the academic arrogance that had come to characterize Byrgenwerth's approach to cosmic phenomena. The scholars convinced themselves that their inability to communicate with Kos was simply a technical problem that could be overcome through more sophisticated methods. They refused to consider the possibility that their very presence might be perceived as a threat by a protective mother. The violence that ultimately occurred was not the result of a sudden loss of control or an unexpected complication. It was the inevitable consequence of an academic culture that had convinced itself that the pursuit of knowledge justified any means necessary to obtain it. The scholars approached Kos with the same detachment they might bring to dissecting a laboratory specimen, completely blind to the cosmic implications of their actions. The brutal birth, from womb to nightmare. The death of Kos and the birth of her orphan represent one of the most cosmically significant and morally horrifying events in the entire Bloodborne universe. This was not merely the killing of a large sea creature, but the violent interruption of a cosmic birth process that had been unfolding across eons of time. The consequences of this violation would prove to extend far beyond the immediate physical effects, creating ripples of trauma and vengeance that would echo through multiple dimensions of reality. The approach of the Byrgenwerth expedition to Kos's resting place was marked by an eerie calm that should have served as a warning to anyone sensitive to cosmic forces. The usual sounds of ocean life, the calls of seabirds, the splash of fish jumping, the distant crash of waves, had fallen silent, as if the entire marine ecosystem was holding its breath in anticipation of the horror about to unfold. The very air seemed thick with cosmic tension, charged with energies that existed just beyond the threshold of human perception. Kos herself was in the final stages of her cosmic pregnancy. When the scholars arrived, her massive form lay partially submerged in the shallow waters near the hamlet's shore. Her consciousness focused inward on the delicate process of bringing new cosmic life into existence. The birthing process for a great one involves not just physical transformation, but the creation of entirely new forms of consciousness that exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The scholars of Byrgenwerth, despite all their preparation and study, fundamentally misunderstood what they were witnessing. They saw Kos's stillness as evidence that she was simply a large marine animal in a vulnerable state. They interpreted her lack of response to their presence as proof that she was not the intelligent cosmic entity described in the ancient texts they had studied. Their academic arrogance blinded them to the cosmic significance of the moment they had chosen to interrupt. The tools and weapons that the expedition brought were specifically designed for extracting samples from otherworldly entities. These instruments, forged in Byrgenwerth's workshops and enhanced with cosmic knowledge, were capable of cutting through substances that existed partially outside normal space-time. The scholars believed that they could harvest what they needed from Kos without causing significant harm to the Great One herself. The first incisions made into Kos's body released energies that sent shockwaves through multiple dimensions of reality. These were not ordinary wounds, but violations of cosmic integrity that disrupted the fundamental forces governing the relationship between different planes of existence. The scholars, focused on their immediate objectives, failed to recognize the significance of the phenomena they were witnessing. The strange lights, the distortions in local gravity, the way their instruments began registering readings that should have been impossible. As the expedition's work continued, the cosmic disturbance they were creating began to affect the surrounding area in increasingly obvious ways. The water around Kos began to glow with phosphorescent light that pulsed in rhythm with her fading heartbeat. The hamlet's residents, despite being located some distance from the shore, began experiencing shared nightmares of drowning, of being pulled down into depths that seemed to have no bottom. The moment when the scholars breached Kos's womb was the moment when academic inquiry transformed into cosmic atrocity. The instruments designed for careful extraction became tools of butchery as the expedition struggled to complete their mission, despite the increasingly violent resistance they encountered. What should have been a precise surgical procedure devolved into desperate hacking as cosmic forces began to actively oppose their violation of the birth process. The orphan's premature emergence from its mother's body was a cosmic catastrophe that defied description in ordinary language. This was not birth as any natural process could comprehend it, but rather the violent ejection of developing consciousness into a reality that was unprepared to receive it. The orphan entered existence, not through the gentle transition that should have marked its emergence into cosmic awareness, but through trauma, violation, and the death of its protective mother. The physical form that the orphan initially manifested was itself a testament to the horror of its birth. Its body combined human and marine characteristics in ways that suggested both its cosmic heritage and the traumatic circumstances of its emergence. The elongated limbs, the translucent skin, the way it moved as if still partially submerged in amniotic fluid, all of these characteristics reflected the incomplete nature of its transformation from cosmic potential into manifest reality. The placenta that connected the orphan to its dead mother served as more than just a biological link. It was a cosmic umbilical cord that maintained the connection between the newborn Great One and the source of its power and identity. As long as this connection remained intact, the orphan retained access to memories and capabilities that belonged to its mother, creating a form of posthumous consciousness that existed partially in the realm of the living and partially in the realm of the dead. The cry that the orphan released upon its birth was heard not just by those present at the scene, but by sensitive individuals across vast distances of space and time. This was not merely sound, but a form of cosmic communication that carried within it the full weight of the trauma and violation that had marked its entry into existence. The cry contained frequencies that could drive listeners to madness, but it also carried messages of grief and rage that transcended ordinary emotional understanding. The hamlet's residents, who had lived under Kos's protection for generations, were among the first to feel the full impact of the cosmic catastrophe unfolding on their shore. The protective barriers that had shielded them from cosmic horror collapsed the moment Kos died, leaving them exposed to influences that their human consciousness was never designed to withstand. Within hours, the entire community began experiencing the kind of existential terror that usually accompanied direct contact with Great Ones. The scholars of Byrgenwerth, despite achieving their immediate objective of obtaining samples from a Great One, found themselves facing consequences that their academic preparations had never anticipated. The cosmic forces they had unleashed by violating the birth process began affecting their own consciousness in ways that made rational thought increasingly difficult. Several expedition members began experiencing visions that seemed to show the same events from the perspective of cosmic entities watching their violation unfold. The blood that flowed from Kos's wounds was not ordinary biological fluid, but a substance that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions. As it mixed with the seawater surrounding her body, it created a medium through which cosmic influences could flow freely between different planes of reality. This contaminated water would eventually carry the effects of the violation far beyond the immediate area, spreading cosmic corruption throughout the ocean ecosystem. The death throes of Kos herself were prolonged by her cosmic nature, which made conventional death impossible for an entity of her scale and significance. Instead of simply ceasing to exist, her consciousness began fragmenting into multiple aspects that dispersed across different dimensions of reality. Some of these fragments attached themselves to physical objects in the area, creating artifacts that would carry cosmic influence for generations to come. The moment when Kos's heart finally stopped beating marked not just the end of an individual cosmic entity, but the beginning of a cosmic cycle of vengeance that would extend across multiple generations and dimensions. The universe itself seemed to recognize that a fundamental violation had occurred, and cosmic forces began aligning to ensure that justice would ultimately be served, regardless of how long the process might take. The orphan's first instinctive actions, upon gaining consciousness, were driven by a combination of grief, rage, and confusion that reflected the traumatic circumstances of its birth. Its attempts to revive its mother, its desperate cries for protection and comfort, its growing realization that it had been born into a hostile universe. All of these responses demonstrated that despite its cosmic nature, the orphan retained the basic emotional needs and instincts of any newborn creature, separated from its mother. The scholars' attempts to approach and study the newly born orphan proved to be the final mistake of their expedition. The cosmic entity that had emerged from Kos's violated womb was not the passive subject for research they had expected, but rather a being whose very existence was defined by the trauma they had inflicted. The orphan's response to their approach was swift, violent, and informed by cosmic capabilities that exceeded anything the scholars had prepared to handle. The transformation of the fishing hamlet from a peaceful community into a nightmare realm began the moment the orphan's rage was fully awakened. The cosmic forces that the entity commanded were not limited to physical violence, but extended to the manipulation of reality itself. The buildings began shifting and warping, the geography became uncertain and fluid, and the boundary between past and present started to dissolve as the orphan's trauma began reshaping the fundamental nature of the area. The curse that the orphan's birth created was not a conscious act of vengeance, but rather an automatic response of cosmic forces to the violation that had occurred. The universe itself seemed to mark the location of the atrocity, ensuring that the site would become a focal point for cosmic horror that would serve as both monument and warning. The curse affected not just the immediate perpetrators, but all who entered the area, creating a zone of concentrated nightmare that existed partially outside normal time and space. The survival of any expedition members, long enough to report back to Byrgenwerth, ensured that knowledge of what had occurred would spread throughout the academic community. However, the reports they provided were filtered through human consciousness that had been traumatized by cosmic horror, making accurate communication of the events impossible. The accounts that reached Byrgenwerth's archives were fragmented, contradictory, and filled with descriptions of phenomena that defied rational explanation. The cosmic significance of the orphan's birth extended far beyond the immediate area where it occurred. The violation of a cosmic birth process created disturbances that rippled through multiple dimensions, affecting the behavior of other Great Ones, and altering the fundamental relationship between cosmic and mortal consciousness. The event served as a catalyst for the cosmic horror that would eventually consume not just Yharnam, but potentially threaten the stability of reality itself. The anatomy of cosmic horror, understanding the orphan's form. The physical manifestation of the Orphan of Kos represents one of the most disturbing and symbolically complex designs in all of Bloodborne's extensive catalogue of cosmic horrors. Every aspect of the creature's appearance serves multiple layers of meaning, from its obvious role as a premature infant torn from its mother's womb, to its deeper significance as a cosmic entity whose very existence challenges human understanding of life, death, and the nature of reality itself. The orphan's overall proportions immediately establish its nature as a being that exists in a state of developmental incompletion. Its elongated limbs suggest the kind of growth patterns that would be normal for a cosmic entity developing over eons of time, but which appear grotesque and unnatural when compressed into the abbreviated time frame of traumatic birth. The creature's height and reach exceed what should be possible for its apparent body mass, creating an uncanny valley effect that triggers deep psychological discomfort in those who observe it. The skin of the orphan possesses qualities that defy conventional categorization, appearing simultaneously translucent and opaque, wet and dry, living tissue and cosmic membrane. This paradoxical quality reflects the creature's existence across multiple dimensions simultaneously. It is both a physical entity that can be observed and touched, and a cosmic phenomenon that exists partially outside normal space-time. The pale, almost luminescent quality of its skin suggests the kind of deep-sea adaptation that would be expected from a creature born in the cosmic depths. Yet it also evokes the pallor of premature birth and traumatic emergence. The elongated head and facial features of the orphan create a disturbing fusion of human and marine characteristics that speaks to its dual nature as both cosmic entity and traumatized infant. The oversized eyes suggest the kind of enhanced sensory capability that would be necessary for a being that must perceive across multiple dimensions. But they also evoke the vulnerability and need for protection that characterizes any newborn creature. The way these eyes seem to track movement with an intelligence that exceeds their apparent developmental stage creates a sense of cognitive dissonance that enhances the horror of encountering this being. The limbs of the orphan are perhaps the most immediately disturbing aspect of its physical form, combining the elongated proportions of a cosmic entity with the awkward coordination of a creature that has not yet learned to control its own body. The way it moves suggests both immense power and fundamental vulnerability. Each gesture carries enough force to shatter stone and bone, yet the overall pattern of movement speaks to a being that is still learning the basic mechanics of physical existence. The hands and feet of the orphan display characteristics that blur the line between tools and weapons, appendages and instruments of destruction. The fingers are elongated beyond normal proportions, suggesting capabilities that extend beyond simple manipulation of physical objects. These appendages appear designed for interaction with substances and energies that exist partially outside normal matter, allowing the orphan to manipulate cosmic forces in ways that no purely physical entity could achieve. The most psychologically disturbing aspect of the orphan's anatomy is the placenta that trails behind it, maintaining its connection to its dead mother. This organic tether serves multiple symbolic and practical functions. It represents the incomplete nature of the orphan's birth, its continued dependence on maternal connection despite its cosmic power, and the way trauma can create emotional bonds that persist even after physical separation has occurred. The placenta also serves as a conduit for cosmic energy, allowing the orphan to draw upon reserves of power that belong to its deceased mother. The way the orphan carries and eventually weaponizes its placenta speaks to the creature's fundamental confusion about its own nature and purpose. In its first phase, it treats this biological connection as a comfort object, something to be protected and preserved. However, as its rage and frustration build, the placenta becomes a weapon, a tool of destruction that symbolizes how trauma can transform the very bonds that should provide comfort and security into instruments of harm and violence. The sounds that the orphan produces throughout its existence reflect the cosmic scale of its consciousness, attempting to express itself through fundamentally inadequate physical apparatus. Its cries combine the wailing of a human infant with frequencies that exist outside the normal range of human hearing, creating an auditory experience that bypasses rational thought and speaks directly to the listener's primal fears and sympathies. These sounds carry emotional content that transcends species barriers, communicating grief, rage, and desperate need in ways that require no translation. The locomotion patterns of the orphan demonstrate the creature's struggle to adapt cosmic consciousness to physical existence. Its movements are simultaneously graceful and awkward, powerful and uncertain. When moving across land, it displays the kind of coordination problems that would be expected from any newborn creature learning to control unfamiliar limbs. However, when it enters the water or takes to the air, its movements become fluid and purposeful, suggesting that its cosmic nature is better suited to environments that exist partially outside normal physical constraints. The breathing patterns of the orphan, when they can be observed, suggest a respiratory system that operates according to principles beyond conventional biology. The creature appears capable of extracting life-sustaining energy from multiple sources: air, water, cosmic radiation, and emotional emanations from other conscious beings. This adaptive capability reflects its nature as a being that exists across multiple dimensions simultaneously, requiring sustenance from sources that pure physical entities could never access. The temperature regulation of the orphan's body creates localized distortions in the surrounding environment that speak to the cosmic energies flowing through its physical form. The air around the creature shimmers with heat, distortions that have nothing to do with conventional thermal dynamics, but rather reflect the presence of energies that exist outside normal thermodynamic principles. These distortions create visual effects that enhance the otherworldly appearance of the creature, while serving as a warning of the cosmic forces it commands. The growth patterns visible in the orphan's anatomy suggest a developmental process that operates according to cosmic rather than biological timescales. Certain aspects of its physical form appear to be aging and developing in real time, while others seem frozen in the moment of its traumatic birth. This uneven development creates a disturbing patchwork effect, where mature cosmic capabilities exist alongside infantile vulnerability, creating a being that is simultaneously ancient and newborn. The sensory organs of the orphan extend far beyond the conventional five senses, allowing it to perceive phenomena that exist across multiple dimensions of reality. Its ability to track and respond to threats that have not yet manifested in physical form suggests a form of precognitive awareness that operates through cosmic rather than temporal mechanisms. This enhanced perception makes the creature extraordinarily dangerous to approach, as it can respond to hostile intentions before they are translated into action. The reproductive anatomy of the orphan, while largely undeveloped due to its premature birth, contains structures that suggest the creature's potential role in cosmic reproduction cycles. These organs appear designed for forms of reproduction that transcend conventional biology, possibly involving the direct transfer of cosmic consciousness between entities rather than the mixing of genetic material. The presence of these structures in an otherwise infantile entity speaks to the cosmic significance of reproduction among great ones. The integumentary system of the orphan displays properties that challenge conventional understanding of the boundary between self and environment. The creature's skin appears to be partially permeable to cosmic influences, allowing energies and consciousness to flow freely between its internal state and the external environment. This permeability makes the orphan extraordinarily sensitive to emotional and psychic influences, explaining its extreme responsiveness to the presence of hunters and other conscious entities. The skeletal structure of the orphan, visible beneath its translucent skin, suggests a framework designed to support cosmic rather than purely physical existence. The bones appear to be composed of materials that exist partially outside normal matter, giving them properties that allow them to channel and focus cosmic energies. This skeletal system serves not just as structural support, but as a kind of cosmic antenna that allows the orphan to maintain contact with forces that exist beyond the physical realm. The muscular system of the orphan demonstrates capabilities that exceed what should be possible based on its apparent mass and structure. The creature can generate force levels that suggest its muscles are supplemented by cosmic energies that multiply the effects of conventional biological processes. This enhancement allows the orphan to perform feats of strength that would be impossible for any purely physical entity, while also explaining the fluid, otherworldly quality of its movements. The circulatory system of the orphan appears to transport substances that exist somewhere between conventional blood and pure cosmic energy. The fluid that flows through its vessels carries not just nutrients and oxygen, but also memories, emotions, and fragments of cosmic consciousness inherited from its mother. This enriched circulation system allows the orphan to maintain its connection to cosmic forces, while also preserving aspects of its mother's identity and capabilities. The nervous system of the orphan represents perhaps the most complex aspect of its anatomy, serving as the interface between cosmic consciousness and physical existence. The neural pathways visible beneath its skin appear to extend beyond the conventional boundaries of the creature's body, creating connections with cosmic forces that exist in other dimensions. This extended nervous system allows the orphan to process information and experiences that no purely physical brain could comprehend. The digestive system of the orphan, insofar as it exists, appears designed to process not just physical matter, but also emotional and psychic emanations from other conscious beings. The creature can derive sustenance from fear, grief, anger, and other intense emotions, allowing it to feed on the psychological responses it provokes in those who encounter it. This capability makes every interaction with the orphan a form of feeding, strengthening the creature while weakening those who face it. The endocrine system of the orphan produces substances that have effects extending far beyond conventional hormone regulation. The chemical signals it generates can influence the behavior and mental state of other organisms across significant distances, creating an aura of cosmic horror that affects all life in its vicinity. These substances also serve to regulate the creature's own transformation processes, controlling the rate at which its cosmic nature manifests in physical form. The immune system of the Orphan demonstrates remarkable resistance to conventional forms of damage, while displaying extreme sensitivity to certain types of cosmic influence. Physical weapons and environmental hazards have minimal effect on the creature, while attacks that target its emotional or spiritual state can cause significant disruption. This selective vulnerability reflects the creature's dual nature as both cosmic entity and traumatized infant. The psychology of cosmic trauma. The Orphan's mental state. Understanding the psychological state of the Orphan of Kos requires us to grapple with concepts that stretch the boundaries of conventional psychology into realms where human experience offers little guidance. This is not merely a creature driven by animal instincts or simple emotional responses, but rather a cosmic consciousness that has been traumatized in ways that no human mind could fully comprehend. The Orphan's mental state represents a unique fusion of cosmic awareness and infantile vulnerability that creates psychological patterns unlike anything else in the Bloodborne universe. The fundamental psychological framework within which the Orphan operates is defined by the traumatic circumstances of its birth. Unlike other cosmic entities that develop their consciousness gradually over vast periods of time, the Orphan was forced into existence through violence and violation. This traumatic emergence created psychological patterns that combine the vast perspective of cosmic consciousness with the immediate needs and fears of a newborn creature, suddenly thrust into a hostile environment. The attachment trauma that defines the Orphan's psychological state stems from its violent separation from its mother. At the moment of birth, in normal cosmic development, the transition from cosmic potential to manifested consciousness occurs gradually, with extensive preparation and support from mature cosmic entities. The Orphan experienced none of this preparation or support, instead entering existence through the death of its protective parent and the hostile actions of alien entities it could not understand. The grief that permeates every aspect of the Orphan's existence operates on scales that exceed human emotional experience. This is not simply sadness over loss, but rather a cosmic scale mourning that encompasses the destruction of entire potential futures that will never exist. The Orphan grieves not just for its dead mother, but for the cosmic harmony that was disrupted by her death, for the protection and guidance it will never receive, and for its own forced exile from the cosmic order it was meant to inherit. The rage that drives many of the Orphan's actions represents a response to cosmic injustice that operates according to principles beyond human understanding of anger or vengeance. This rage is not hot and impulsive like human fury, but rather cold and implacable, like the movement of cosmic forces themselves. It represents the universe's own response to the violation of cosmic law, channeled through a consciousness that serves as both victim and instrument of cosmic justice. The confusion that characterizes much of the Orphan's behavior stems from its attempt to understand its own nature and purpose, without the guidance that should have been provided by its mother. Cosmic entities typically receive extensive education about their role in the universal order and their relationships with other forms of consciousness. The Orphan possesses cosmic capabilities, but lacks the contextual understanding necessary to use them appropriately, creating a dangerous combination of immense power and fundamental ignorance. The loneliness that permeates the Orphan's existence represents perhaps the most tragic aspect of its psychological state. As a cosmic entity, it possesses forms of consciousness that no human or lesser being could ever understand or share. Yet, as a traumatized infant, it desperately needs connection, comfort, and protection that its cosmic nature makes impossible to receive. This creates a state of existential isolation that goes far beyond simple social loneliness. The fear that motivates many of the orphan's defensive responses operates on multiple levels simultaneously. On the immediate level, it fears further harm from entities like the hunters, who represent the same threat that killed its mother. On a deeper level, it fears the cosmic forces that its birth has set in motion, sensing that its very existence has created disturbances that may ultimately lead to its own destruction. Most profoundly, it fears the implications of its own nature, sensing that it may be destined to become something other than what it currently is. The protective instincts that drive the orphan to defend its mother's corpse represent a psychological response that combines cosmic awareness with infantile attachment. The orphan understands on some level that its mother is dead and cannot be restored, yet it cannot emotionally accept this reality. Its vigorous defense of her remains represents both a practical attempt to prevent further violation and a psychological denial of the finality of death. The learning capacity of the orphan, while vast due to its cosmic nature, is severely hampered by the traumatic circumstances of its existence. Cosmic entities normally learn through patient observation and guidance from mature mentors. The orphan must learn through trial and error in a hostile environment, developing survival skills rather than the wisdom and understanding that should characterize cosmic consciousness. This distorted learning process creates gaps and blind spots in its understanding that make it unpredictable and dangerous. The memory functions of the orphan operate according to cosmic, rather than biological principles, allowing it to retain not just its own experiences, but also fragments of memory inherited from its mother. These inherited memories provide the orphan with knowledge of the time before its birth, when its mother protected the fishing hamlet and maintained cosmic harmony. However, these memories also serve as a constant reminder of what was lost when its mother died, intensifying its grief and rage. The identity formation process for the orphan is complicated by its lack of proper cosmic guidance and its traumatic emergence into existence. Cosmic entities typically develop their sense of self through relationships with other cosmic beings and gradual understanding of their role in the universal order. The orphan must construct its identity from fragments of inherited memory, its own traumatic experiences, and its observations of the hostile world around it. This results in an identity that is both cosmic and deeply damaged. The empathy capabilities of the orphan are simultaneously enhanced and distorted by its cosmic nature and traumatic psychology. As a cosmic entity, it possesses the ability to perceive and understand the emotional states of other conscious beings with extraordinary clarity. However, its traumatic experiences have created psychological filters that interpret most emotions as either threats or reminders of its own pain, making genuine empathic connection extremely difficult. The decision-making processes of the orphan reflect the tension between its cosmic capabilities and its infantile emotional state. It possesses the intellectual capacity to understand complex cosmic principles and predict the consequences of its actions across vast scales of time and space. However, its decisions are often driven by immediate emotional needs and traumatic responses that override its rational capabilities, leading to choices that serve short-term psychological needs rather than long-term cosmic interests. The communication abilities of the orphan are severely limited by its traumatic isolation and lack of proper cosmic education. While it possesses the potential for sophisticated cosmic communication, its actual expressions are limited to the kind of basic emotional signals that any distressed infant might produce. Its cries can convey the intensity of its distress across vast distances, but it lacks the ability to engage in the complex exchanges of information and understanding that characterize mature cosmic consciousness. The adaptive mechanisms that the orphan has developed in response to its traumatic circumstances represent a unique fusion of cosmic resilience and psychological defense strategies. It has learned to channel its cosmic capabilities in ways that provide protection and comfort, using its ability to manipulate reality as a form of emotional regulation. However, these adaptations also serve to isolate it further from potential sources of help or understanding. The sleep and dream states of the orphan, when they occur, provide temporary relief from the intensity of its waking consciousness, while also serving as a conduit for cosmic communication. During these periods, the orphan's consciousness can expand beyond the limitations imposed by its traumatic psychology, allowing it to access deeper levels of cosmic awareness. However, these experiences also intensify its sense of loss, by showing it glimpses of what its existence might have been under different circumstances. The developmental trajectory of the orphan remains uncertain due to the unprecedented nature of its circumstances. Cosmic entities typically follow predictable patterns of growth and development, guided by cosmic mentors and universal principles. The orphan's development is proceeding according to no known pattern, shaped by trauma, isolation, and the need for survival, rather than the normal processes of cosmic education and maturation. The Nightmare Realm, architecture of eternal suffering. The fishing hamlet that serves as the orphan's domain represents one of the most psychologically complex and symbolically rich environments in all of Bloodborne's Nightmare Realms. This is not merely a location where terrible events occurred, but rather a space where the very concepts of time, causality, and reality have been fundamentally altered by cosmic trauma. Every stone, every building, every inch of this cursed place tells a story of innocence destroyed and cosmic harmony shattered beyond repair. The temporal distortions that characterize the hamlet create an environment where past, present, and future exist simultaneously in a state of perpetual collapse. The moment of the hamlet's destruction has been stretched across eternity, creating a space where the final seconds of the residents' lives play out in endless repetition. Visitors to this realm can witness the same deaths occurring over and over again, each iteration slightly different, but always ending in the same tragic conclusion. The geographical layout of the hamlet defies conventional physics in ways that reflect the cosmic disturbances created by Kos's death. Paths that should lead in straight lines curve back on themselves, creating loops that trap unwary travelers in endless circuits of futile wandering. Buildings that appear to be adjacent to each other can actually be separated by vast distances of space-time, while structures that seem distant can be reached by simply turning around a corner. The architecture of the hamlet's buildings reflects the psychological state of their former inhabitants during their final moments. Walls lean at impossible angles, suggesting the vertigo and disorientation that accompanied their exposure to cosmic horror. Windows open onto vistas that should not exist, revealing glimpses of other versions of reality where different outcomes might have been possible. Doors open onto rooms that exist in multiple time periods simultaneously, where the past and present occupy the same space. The wells that dot the hamlet landscape serve as more than simple sources of water. They are portals through which cosmic influence seeps into the physical realm. The liquid that bubbles up from their depths carries within it the distilled essence of every tear shed in the hamlet, every scream of terror, every moment of anguish experienced by the residents during their final hours. This contaminated water serves as a medium through which the hamlet's trauma continues to manifest in physical form. The fishing boats that lie scattered throughout the hamlet tell their own story of interrupted normalcy and cosmic violation. These vessels, once used by honest fishermen to harvest the sea's bounty, have been transformed into monuments to the destruction of innocent purpose. Their nets, designed to capture fish, now seem to be trapping fragments of memory and consciousness that drift through the nightmare realm like ghostly catch from otherworldly seas. The lighthouse that overlooks the hamlet serves as a twisted beacon, that guides travelers not towards safety, but deeper into the nightmare realm. Its light operates according to cosmic rather than optical principles, illuminating truths that would be better left hidden, while casting shadows that conceal the very information that visitors need to navigate safely. The lighthouse keeper's quarters contain evidence of the final desperate attempts to signal for help that never came. The church that once served as the spiritual center of the hamlet community has been transformed into a monument to cosmic blasphemy. The altar that once hosted ceremonies celebrating life and community now serves as a focal point for energies that mock the very concepts of hope and faith. The pews where families once gathered in worship are now occupied by the ghostly forms of residents, trapped in eternal repetition of their final prayers. The marketplace where the hamlet's residents once conducted their daily commerce has become a bazaar of cosmic horror, where impossible transactions take place between entities that exist partially outside normal reality. The stalls that once displayed fresh fish and handcrafted goods now offer wares that defy description, objects that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, tools designed for purposes that no human mind could comprehend, currencies that measure value in terms of suffering and loss, rather than conventional wealth. The residential areas of the hamlet reflect the intimate horror of cosmic violation. On a personal scale, each home tells the story of a family whose normal life was interrupted by forces beyond their comprehension or control. Children's toys lie scattered in patterns that suggest play interrupted by sudden terror. Dinner tables are set for meals that were never eaten. Beds are unmade by sleepers who never woke up from their final dreams. The harbor facilities, where the hamlet's fishing fleet once docked, have been transformed into a cosmic port where vessels from other dimensions of reality occasionally manifest. These otherworldly ships bring cargo that consists not of physical goods, but of memories, emotions, and fragments of consciousness from other realms where similar tragedies have occurred. The dock workers who once loaded and unloaded conventional cargo now perform endless, futile tasks involving materials that cannot be grasped or understood. The cemetery that once provided peaceful rest for the hamlet's departed has become a gateway through which the dead continue to interact with the living world. The gravestones mark not just the final resting places of individuals, but rather portals through which consciousness can move freely between different states of existence. The earth itself has become saturated with cosmic influence, making it impossible for the dead to achieve the rest they deserve. The coastal defenses that once protected the hamlet from storms and hostile vessels have been repurposed by cosmic forces to serve as barriers preventing escape rather than intrusion. The breakwaters that once sheltered the harbor from rough seas now trap visitors within the nightmare realm, making departure impossible for any who lack the cosmic insight necessary to navigate the distorted space-time that surrounds the hamlet. The workshop areas where the hamlet's craftsmen once created tools and goods for daily use have been transformed into laboratories where cosmic experiments continue to unfold without any conscious direction or control. The forges that once shaped metal now work with substances that exist partially outside normal matter. The looms that once wove cloth now create patterns that serve as maps to dimensions that should never be visited. The school where the hamlet's children once learned reading, writing, and arithmetic has become a cosmic library where forbidden knowledge accumulates without any organizing principle or protective safeguards. The blackboards display equations that describe the mathematics of cosmic horror. The desks are filled with textbooks that contain information about subjects that no human mind should ever study. The gardens where the hamlet's residents once grew vegetables and flowers have been transformed into cosmic botanical experiments, where plant life from multiple dimensions attempts to coexist in the same space. The resulting flora displays characteristics that combine familiar earthly plants with otherworldly properties that make them beautiful, terrifying, and impossible in equal measure. The bridges that once connected different areas of the hamlet now span not just physical space but different periods of time and alternative versions of reality. Crossing these structures requires visitors to navigate not just geographical obstacles but temporal and dimensional barriers that can trap unwary travelers in versions of the hamlet where different catastrophes have occurred. The weather patterns that affect the hamlet operate according to cosmic rather than meteorological principles. Rain falls upward, carrying with it the tears of cosmic entities. Wind blows in directions that correspond to emotional rather than geographical coordinates. The fog that frequently shrouds the area is composed not of water vapor, but of condensed memory and consciousness that can trigger vivid recollections of events that visitors never actually experienced. The hunters who came before, echoes of failed expeditions. The path to the Orphan of Kos is littered with the remains of hunters who came before, each representing a different approach to the cosmic horror that dwells in the nightmare hamlet. These fallen warriors serve as both warning and guide for any hunter brave or foolish enough to attempt the journey to confront the cosmic infant. Their stories, told through the equipment they carried and the circumstances of their deaths, reveal the many ways that even the most skilled and prepared hunters can fail when faced with cosmic forces beyond their comprehension. The earliest hunters to venture into the nightmare realm were motivated by simple curiosity about the legends and folklore surrounding the fishing hamlet. These were scholars and researchers who approached the nightmare with the same academic detachment that had served them well in studying other supernatural phenomena. Their equipment reflected this scholarly approach. Detailed notebooks for recording observations, instruments for measuring otherworldly energies, and protective gear designed according to theoretical principles rather than practical experience. The fate of these academic hunters serves as a stark reminder of the inadequacy of conventional scholarly methods when applied to cosmic horror. Their notes, scattered throughout the hamlet, reveal a progressive breakdown of rational thought as they encountered phenomena that defied every framework of understanding they had brought with them. The final entries in their journals consist of increasingly frantic attempts to apply scientific methodology to observations that transcended the boundaries of rational analysis. The second wave of hunters to attempt the journey were seasoned warriors who had faced numerous supernatural threats throughout their careers. These hunters brought practical experience and proven combat techniques, believing that their skills and equipment would be sufficient to overcome any challenges the nightmare realm might present. Their approach was fundamentally tactical rather than academic, focused on identifying threats and neutralizing them through superior firepower and martial skill. The weapons and gear left behind by these combat veterans tell a story of progressive escalation and ultimate futility. The progression from conventional hunter weapons to increasingly exotic and powerful armaments reveals their growing desperation as they encountered threats that conventional tactics could not address. Their final battles were fought with weapons designed specifically for cosmic entities, yet even these specialized tools proved inadequate against the particular horror represented by the Orphan. The third category of hunters to attempt the journey were those driven by personal motivations that went beyond simple duty or curiosity. These included hunters seeking redemption for past failures, warriors pursuing legendary weapons or knowledge, and individuals whose own traumatic experiences created a sense of kinship with the cosmic suffering that permeated the nightmare realm. Their equipment often included personal totems and talismans that reflected their individual psychological needs rather than practical considerations. The personal items left behind by these motivated hunters reveal the complex emotional landscape that drove their final journeys. Letters never sent to loved ones, photographs of people and places that provided comfort during dark moments, religious symbols from faiths that offered little protection against cosmic horror. All of these items serve as reminders that even the most hardened hunters retained human needs and vulnerabilities that cosmic forces could exploit. The most successful hunters to venture into the nightmare realm were those who achieved some degree of cosmic insight before attempting the journey. These individuals had gained enough understanding of the true nature of reality to recognize the futility of conventional approaches, while maintaining enough humanity to function as coherent conscious entities. Their equipment reflected this balance, combining practical hunting tools with items designed according to cosmic principles. The progression of these insightful hunters through the nightmare realm can be traced through the strategic positions where they established camps and supply caches. Their route reveals an understanding of the cosmic forces that shape the hamlet's geography, as well as recognition of the psychological challenges that would accompany extended exposure to concentrated cosmic horror. However, even their superior preparation and understanding proved insufficient to overcome the ultimate challenge represented by the Orphan. The cooperation attempts that occurred between different groups of hunters reveal both the potential benefits and ultimate limitations of collaborative approaches to cosmic horror. Some hunters attempted to share resources and coordinate their efforts, recognizing that the challenges they faced exceeded what any individual could handle alone. However, the psychological effects of exposure to cosmic horror gradually undermined these collaborative efforts, turning potential allies into sources of additional stress and paranoia. The technological innovations developed by various hunter groups in response to the unique challenges of the nightmare realm demonstrate remarkable creativity and adaptability. These included specialized communication systems for maintaining contact across the distorted space-time of the hamlet, protective equipment designed according to cosmic principles rather than conventional physics, and weapons modified to channel otherworldly energies rather than relying purely on physical force. The psychological studies conducted by hunter scholars who attempted to understand the mental effects of exposure to cosmic horror provide valuable insights into the progressive breakdown of human consciousness when confronted with entities like the Orphan. These studies documented the stages of cosmic madness, the defense mechanisms that consciousness develops to protect itself from incomprehensible truth, and the ultimate futility of maintaining rational thought in the face of cosmic horror. The religious and philosophical responses of hunters to their encounters with cosmic forces reveal the inadequacy of conventional belief systems when confronted with entities that exist beyond the boundaries of human moral and spiritual frameworks. Some hunters attempted to interpret their experiences through traditional religious concepts, while others developed entirely new philosophical systems to accommodate the cosmic truths they had witnessed. The final messages left behind by hunters who recognized that they would not survive their encounter with the Orphan provide valuable warnings and guidance for those who might follow. These communications often took unconventional forms, symbols carved into stone according to cosmic notation systems, patterns of positioned objects that convey meaning through spatial relationships, and audio recordings that capture not just words but emotional and psychic emanations. The medical studies conducted on hunters who survived partial exposure to cosmic forces provide insights into the physical and psychological effects of contact with entities like the Orphan. These studies documented the progressive changes in brain structure and function that accompany cosmic insight, the alterations in sensory capability that result from exposure to otherworldly energies, and the gradual breakdown of the boundary between individual consciousness and cosmic awareness. The strategic analyses developed by military-minded hunters reveal sophisticated understanding of the tactical challenges presented by cosmic entities. These studies identified the futility of conventional combat approaches, while developing alternative strategies based on psychological manipulation, environmental advantage, and the exploitation of cosmic entities' own limitations and vulnerabilities. The artistic expressions created by hunters in response to their encounters with cosmic horror serve as unique documents of the human response to incomprehensible truth. These works include paintings that attempt to capture visual representations of indescribable entities, musical compositions that incorporate otherworldly harmonies, and written works that push the boundaries of human language to convey cosmic concepts. The survival guides compiled by experienced hunters provide practical advice for navigating the nightmare realm while maintaining enough sanity to function effectively. These guides address not just physical survival needs, but also psychological strategies for maintaining mental stability in the face of cosmic horror, techniques for recognizing and resisting cosmic influence, and methods for preserving human identity while gaining necessary cosmic insight. The first encounter, when innocence meets horror, the moment when a hunter first lays eyes upon the Orphan of Kos, represents one of the most psychologically complex and emotionally devastating encounters in all of Bloodborne's cosmic horror narrative. This is not merely a confrontation between predator and prey, or even between human and monster, but rather a collision between two fundamentally different forms of consciousness, one shaped by purpose and training, the other by trauma and cosmic grief. The initial encounter sets the stage for a battle that transcends physical combat to become a struggle between conflicting interpretations of justice, responsibility, and the meaning of existence itself. The approach to the orphan's resting place is characterized by a growing sense of wrongness that affects hunters on multiple levels of consciousness simultaneously. The physical environment becomes increasingly unstable as one moves closer to the cosmic infant, with gravity fluctuating unpredictably and the very air becoming thick with otherworldly energies. More disturbing still are the psychological effects, a growing sense of guilt and shame that seems to emerge from the environment itself, as if the nightmare realm is passing judgment on all who enter with hostile intent. The visual revelation of the orphan itself creates a profound cognitive dissonance that challenges the hunter's ability to process what they are experiencing. The creature's obvious nature as an infant conflicts violently with its cosmic power and threatening presence, creating a psychological tension that defies easy resolution. This is clearly a newborn creature in need of protection and care, yet it is also obviously a cosmic entity capable of reshaping reality itself. The mind struggles to reconcile these contradictory impressions, often resulting in a temporary paralysis as consciousness attempts to process incompatible information. The emotional impact of the first encounter operates on levels that extend far beyond the hunter's personal psychology to touch upon fundamental human instincts and cosmic principles. The sight of a cosmic infant, separated from its dead mother, triggers protective instincts that exist across species boundaries, while the creature's obvious power and hostility activate survival responses that demand immediate action. These conflicting impulses create an internal struggle that mirrors the larger cosmic conflict playing out in the nightmare realm. The orphan's initial response to the hunter's presence reveals the complex psychology of a being that possesses cosmic awareness, but lacks the emotional maturity to process its own situation rationally. Its immediate hostility stems not from predatory instincts, but from a combination of grief, fear, and protective rage that any infant might experience when approached by unknown entities. However, the cosmic scale of its consciousness and capabilities transforms these normal emotional responses into forces that can literally reshape reality. The communication attempts that often occur during the initial encounter demonstrate the fundamental impossibility of meaningful dialogue between human and cosmic consciousness. The hunter may attempt to signal peaceful intentions or offer comfort to what is obviously a distressed infant, but these gestures are filtered through the orphan's traumatic psychology and cosmic perspective in ways that render them meaningless or actively threatening. The creature cannot distinguish between those who mean it harm and those who might offer help, responding to all contact with equal suspicion and violence. The psychological preparation that hunters undergo before attempting to confront the orphan proves to be fundamentally inadequate for the reality of the encounter. Training exercises designed to prepare for combat with monstrous entities cannot replicate the emotional complexity of facing a cosmic infant whose very existence represents a profound moral challenge. The hunter must simultaneously maintain the aggressive mindset necessary for survival, while grappling with the knowledge that their opponent is in many fundamental ways an innocent victim of circumstances beyond its control. The equipment and weapons that hunters bring to the encounter often seem absurdly inappropriate when faced with the reality of the orphan's nature. Tools designed for destroying monsters become instruments of infanticide when wielded against a cosmic baby, regardless of that baby's threatening capabilities. This transformation of purpose creates an additional layer of psychological stress that can undermine the hunter's confidence and effectiveness in combat. The environmental effects that accompany the orphan's emotional responses to the hunter's presence create a battlefield that shifts and changes according to psychological rather than physical principles. The creature's grief and rage manifest as alterations in local gravity, temperature, and the fundamental laws of physics themselves. This creates a combat environment where conventional tactics and strategies become useless, forcing hunters to adapt in real time to conditions that may change from moment to moment. The cosmic significance of the encounter extends far beyond the immediate participants, to encompass the broader relationship between human consciousness and cosmic forces. The hunter represents humanity's attempt to impose its will upon cosmic entities through violence and determination, while the orphan embodies the universe's response to cosmic violation and the price of forbidden knowledge. Their confrontation serves as a microcosm of the larger struggle between human ambition and cosmic justice. The temporal distortions that occur during the initial encounter reflect the cosmic nature of the forces involved in the confrontation. Time may slow, accelerate, or flow in multiple directions simultaneously, as the orphan's emotional state affects the fundamental structure of reality around it. These distortions make conventional combat timing impossible, while creating opportunities for attacks and defenses that exist outside normal causality. The sensory overload that hunters experience during their first encounter with the orphan results from exposure to cosmic energies and emotions that a human consciousness is not designed to process. The creature's cries contain frequencies that exist outside normal human hearing, while conveying emotional content of cosmic intensity. Its movements generate visual effects that challenge the hunter's ability to track and respond to threats. Even its scent carries information about cosmic forces that can overwhelm human olfactory systems. The moral complexity of the encounter becomes increasingly apparent as the battle progresses, and the hunter is forced to acknowledge the fundamental innocence of their opponent, despite its threatening behavior. Every successful attack against the orphan is simultaneously a victory over a dangerous cosmic entity and an act of violence against a traumatized infant. This moral ambiguity creates psychological stress that can affect the hunter's performance and decision-making throughout the encounter. The learning curve that hunters must navigate during their first encounter with the orphan is extraordinarily steep due to the unique nature of the creature's capabilities and behavior patterns. Conventional combat experience provides little guidance for fighting an opponent whose attacks are driven by emotional rather than tactical considerations, whose movement patterns reflect cosmic rather than physical principles, and whose defensive capabilities operate according to otherworldly logic. The psychological endurance required to maintain combat effectiveness throughout the encounter with the Orphan exceeds what most hunters have experienced in previous battles. The combination of physical demands, emotional stress, and cosmic horror creates a cumulative burden that can overwhelm even the most experienced and well-prepared warriors. The ability to maintain focus and purpose in the face of such comprehensive assault on consciousness becomes the determining factor in the encounter's outcome. The revelation of the hunter's own complicity in the cosmic trauma that created the Orphan adds another layer of complexity to the encounter. As the battle progresses, it becomes increasingly clear that the hunter represents the same forces that killed the Orphan's mother and destroyed the fishing hamlet. This knowledge transforms the encounter from a simple battle into a confrontation with the consequences of humanity's cosmic crimes, making victory feel more like judgment than triumph. The Battle of Grief and Rage. Combat with the Cosmic Infant. The actual combat encounter with the Orphan of Kos represents one of the most emotionally complex and technically challenging boss fights in all of gaming, requiring hunters to navigate not just the creature's devastating attacks, but also the psychological burden of fighting what is essentially a cosmic infant driven by grief and trauma. Every aspect of the battle serves multiple narrative and symbolic functions, creating a fight that operates simultaneously as a test of skill, a moral challenge, and a meditation on the nature of justice and responsibility in a universe governed by cosmic forces. The opening moments of combat establish the Orphan as an opponent unlike any other in the hunter's experience. Its attacks are not guided by predatory instincts or tactical considerations, but rather by the raw emotional responses of a traumatized infant lashing out at a hostile world. This creates combat patterns that are simultaneously predictable and chaotic. Predictable because they follow emotional logic rather than tactical strategy. Chaotic because emotions can shift rapidly and without warning. The creature's use of its placenta as both comfort object and weapon creates one of the most disturbing weapon dynamics in any boss fight. In moments of calm, the Orphan cradles the placenta like any infant might hold a favored toy or blanket, seeking comfort from this last connection to its mother. However, when threatened or enraged, it transforms this symbol of maternal connection into a devastating weapon that can crush stone and bone with equal ease. This transformation speaks to how trauma can corrupt even the most innocent relationships and connections. The movement patterns of the Orphan reflect its struggle to adapt cosmic consciousness to physical existence. While dealing with overwhelming emotional trauma, its ground-based attacks display the awkward coordination of a newborn creature, still learning to control its own body. Yet, when it takes to the air or enters water, its movements become fluid and purposeful. This duality creates a combat rhythm where periods of relative vulnerability alternate with moments of extreme danger. The area of effect attacks that the Orphan employs demonstrate its ability to channel cosmic forces through emotional expression rather than conscious intent. When the creature experiences surges of grief or rage, these emotions manifest as reality-altering explosions of energy that can devastate large areas around the battlefield. These attacks cannot be dodged through conventional movement, but must be survived through understanding the emotional rhythms that trigger them. The sound design of the Orphan's attacks creates an auditory experience that transcends mere combat noise to become a symphony of cosmic grief. Each strike is accompanied by frequencies that carry emotional content as well as physical force. The creature's cries during combat contain harmonics that can induce feelings of profound sadness, overwhelming guilt, or desperate fear in those who hear them. These sounds serve as weapons in their own right, capable of paralyzing opponents with emotional overload. The damage patterns inflicted by the Orphan's attacks reflect the cosmic nature of its grief and rage. Physical wounds heal according to normal biological processes, but the psychic damage caused by contact with cosmic sorrow can persist indefinitely. Hunters who survive encounters with the Orphan often report experiencing phantom pain that corresponds not to their own injuries, but to the creature's emotional state, creating a form of empathic connection that transcends the boundaries of individual consciousness. The escalation patterns of the Orphan's aggression follow emotional rather than tactical logic, creating a boss fight where the creature's increasing desperation and rage drive it to ever more devastating attacks. As the battle progresses and the Orphan realizes that it cannot drive away this latest threat, its attacks become more frenzied and destructive. However, this escalation also makes the creature more vulnerable, as its cosmic control begins to break down under the pressure of overwhelming emotion. The environmental interactions that occur during combat with the Orphan demonstrate the creature's ability to unconsciously reshape reality according to its emotional needs. The battlefield itself becomes an expression of the Orphan's psychological state, with the terrain shifting to reflect its moods and the very air taking on qualities that mirror its emotional turmoil. Water behaves differently around the creature, responding to its movements as if it were still connected to its mother's aquatic domain. The defensive capabilities of the Orphan reflect both its cosmic nature and its infantile vulnerability. The creature possesses natural resistances to physical damage that stem from its otherworldly constitution, yet it remains extraordinarily sensitive to emotional and psychological attacks. Hunters who approach the battle with compassion rather than hostility often find that the Orphan's defensive responses are less aggressive, though no less dangerous. The learning curve that the Orphan displays during extended combat reveals a form of intelligence that operates according to cosmic rather than conventional parameters. The creature adapts to the hunter's tactics, not through tactical analysis, but through cosmic pattern recognition that allows it to perceive the underlying intentions and strategies that drive the hunter's actions. This makes conventional combat strategies ineffective, as the Orphan responds to what the hunter plans to do rather than what they are currently doing. The stamina and endurance systems that govern the Orphan's combat performance operate according to emotional rather than physical principles. The creature's ability to sustain aggressive combat depends not on conventional energy reserves, but on the intensity of its grief and rage. As these emotions fluctuate, so does the Orphan's combat effectiveness, creating periods of vulnerability that correspond to moments of overwhelming sorrow rather than physical exhaustion. The phase transitions that mark the progression of the battle correspond to the Orphan's evolving emotional responses to the hunter's presence and actions. The first phase is characterized by defensive aggression born of fear and confusion. The second phase represents the creature's growing realization that it faces a determined enemy rather than a simple threat that can be driven away. Each transition is marked by fundamental changes, not just in the creature's attack patterns, but in its entire approach to the conflict. The weapon interactions that occur during combat reveal the Orphan's instinctive understanding of cosmic forces and otherworldly energies. The creature can sense the cosmic resonance of different weapons and tools, responding more aggressively to items that carry traces of cosmic corruption or connection to other great ones. This creates strategic considerations that extend beyond simple damage calculations to encompass the cosmic significance of the hunter's equipment choices. The healing mechanics that govern the Orphan's recovery from damage reflect its connection to cosmic forces and its mother's lingering influence. The creature can draw upon reserves of cosmic energy to repair physical damage, but these healing processes are tied to its emotional state in ways that create strategic opportunities for observant hunters. Moments of profound grief temporarily disrupt the Orphan's connection to cosmic healing, while surges of rage can accelerate recovery beyond normal limits. The positioning dynamics that govern combat with the Orphan reflect the creature's dual nature as both cosmic entity and vulnerable infant. Certain areas of the battlefield provide the Orphan with advantages that stem from its connection to cosmic forces, while others leave it exposed and vulnerable. However, these positioning advantages shift according to the creature's emotional state, rather than remaining constant throughout the battle. The timing requirements for successfully engaging the Orphan in combat operate according to cosmic, rather than conventional rhythms. The creature's attack patterns follow cycles that correspond to cosmic principles rather than simple mechanical timing, requiring hunters to develop an intuitive understanding of otherworldly rhythms, rather than relying on conventional timing strategies. This creates a combat experience that feels more like a cosmic dance than a traditional boss fight. The psychological warfare that characterizes much of the combat with the Orphan involves the creature's unconscious ability to project its own emotional trauma onto its opponents. Hunters engaging with the Orphan often find themselves experiencing emotions that do not belong to them: overwhelming grief, cosmic loneliness, existential terror that stems from the creature's own psychological state rather than the immediate combat situation. The cooperative elements that emerge during combat reflect the Orphan's desperate need for connection and understanding, despite its hostile behavior. Hunters who can recognize and respond to the creature's emotional cues sometimes find opportunities for brief moments of connection that can alter the course of the battle. These moments require extraordinary emotional intelligence and willingness to see past the creature's threatening exterior to its underlying vulnerability. The conclusion mechanics that govern the end of combat with the Orphan depend not just on reducing the creature's physical vitality, but on achieving some form of emotional resolution to the cosmic trauma that drives its existence. Victory requires not just defeating the Orphan, but somehow addressing the grief and rage that fuel its existence, creating a boss fight where the psychological dimension is as important as the physical combat. The second phase. When cosmic power awakens, the transformation of the Orphan into its second phase represents one of the most dramatic and symbolically significant moments in any boss encounter, marking the point where grief and rage reach critical mass and transform into something approaching cosmic justice. This is not merely a creature becoming more powerful or aggressive, but rather the awakening of dormant cosmic capabilities that allow the Orphan to access its true nature as a great one, despite its traumatic circumstances. The visual transformation that marks the beginning of the second phase serves multiple symbolic functions, while creating one of the most striking and memorable images in all of Bloodborne. The Orphan's decision to tear away its placenta and use it as a weapon represents the severing of its last connection to maternal comfort and protection. This act transforms the creature from a traumatized infant seeking comfort into an agent of cosmic vengeance, fully committed to destroying the forces that violated its mother and disrupted its birth. The wings that emerge during the transformation process represent the Orphan's growing access to its cosmic heritage and capabilities. These are not conventional biological wings, but rather manifestations of cosmic power that allow the creature to transcend the limitations of purely physical existence. The ability to fly that these wings provide is less about locomotion and more about the creature's growing ability to operate according to cosmic rather than earthly principles. The increase in size and power that accompanies the transformation reflects the Orphan's growing comfort with its own cosmic nature and its increasing willingness to fully embrace the destructive capabilities at its disposal. The creature's attacks become more coordinated and purposeful, suggesting that its cosmic consciousness is beginning to assert control over its emotional responses and channel them into more effective expressions of power. The environmental effects that intensify during the second phase demonstrate the Orphan's expanding influence over the fabric of reality itself. The battlefield becomes increasingly unstable as the creature's cosmic power begins to affect the fundamental laws of physics governing the area. Gravity fluctuates, time flows irregularly, and the boundary between the physical realm and cosmic dimensions becomes increasingly permeable. The lightning attacks that characterize much of the second phase represent the Orphan's ability to channel cosmic forces that exist beyond conventional energy systems. These electrical manifestations are not governed by normal electromagnetic principles, but rather represent the direct application of cosmic will to material reality. The patterns and timing of these attacks reflect cosmic rhythms rather than conventional physics, requiring hunters to develop entirely new approaches to defense and evasion. The aerial combat capabilities that the Orphan develops during its transformation create a three-dimensional battlefield that challenges hunters to expand their tactical thinking beyond conventional ground-based combat. The creature's ability to attack from any angle while maintaining mobility that exceeds what conventional physics should allow creates strategic challenges that push the limits of human reflexes and spatial reasoning. The emotional evolution that accompanies the physical transformation reveals the Orphan's gradual development from reactive victim to active agent of cosmic justice. The creature's attacks become more purposeful and directed, suggesting that its cosmic consciousness is beginning to process its trauma in ways that allow for strategic thinking rather than purely emotional responses. This evolution makes the creature more dangerous, while also making it more comprehensible as an opponent. The cosmic communication that begins to emerge during the second phase suggests that the Orphan is developing the ability to express its consciousness in ways that transcend simple emotional outbursts. The creature's cries begin to carry more complex information, including warnings, challenges, and expressions of cosmic perspective that provide insight into its evolving understanding of its own situation and purpose. The reality manipulation capabilities that become apparent during the second phase demonstrate the Orphan's growing mastery over cosmic forces that allow it to alter the fundamental nature of the battlefield itself. The creature can create pockets of altered space-time, generate fields of cosmic energy that operate according to otherworldly principles, and manifest phenomena that challenge the hunter's understanding of what is possible within the confines of physical reality. The predictive abilities that the Orphan begins to display during its transformed state reflect its growing access to cosmic perception that operates beyond conventional sensory limitations. The creature can anticipate and respond to threats before they fully manifest, creating combat situations where conventional timing and positioning strategies become ineffective. This precognitive awareness forces hunters to think several moves ahead, while remaining flexible enough to adapt to rapidly changing tactical situations. The collective consciousness elements that emerge during the second phase suggest that the Orphan is beginning to access memories and capabilities inherited from its mother and other cosmic entities. The creature's attacks begin to incorporate techniques and strategies that it could not have learned through its own limited experience, indicating that it is drawing upon cosmic knowledge that transcends individual consciousness. The justice motifs that become increasingly apparent during the second phase reveal the cosmic significance of the battle as something more than a simple fight for survival. The Orphan's attacks begin to carry symbolic weight that corresponds to the various crimes committed against cosmic entities throughout human history. Each successful hit represents not just physical damage, but a form of cosmic retribution for humanity's violation of otherworldly beings. The temporal displacement effects that intensify during the second phase create combat situations where cause and effect operate according to cosmic rather than conventional principles. The Orphan's attacks may manifest their effects before the creature appears to initiate them, creating paradoxical combat situations that challenge the hunter's understanding of sequence and causality. These effects force hunters to develop intuitive responses that operate faster than conscious thought. The dimensional breaches that occur with increasing frequency during the second phase provide glimpses into other realities where different versions of the cosmic tragedy might have unfolded. These brief windows into alternative possibilities serve both as distraction and as psychological warfare, showing hunters visions of realities where the orphan's mother was never killed or where the fishing hamlet was never destroyed. The energy patterns that govern the orphan's second phase abilities operate according to cosmic rhythms that reflect the creature's growing connection to universal forces. Understanding these patterns becomes crucial for survival, as they govern not just when the creature will attack, but how reality itself will behave during different phases of the cosmic cycle that the orphan's presence has initiated. The vulnerability windows that exist during the second phase are fewer and more difficult to identify than in the creature's initial form, requiring hunters to develop almost supernatural timing and awareness to identify opportunities for successful attacks. These moments of vulnerability often correspond to periods when the orphan's cosmic consciousness is focused entirely on manifesting particular devastating attacks, leaving brief openings for clever hunters to exploit. The psychological impact of facing the orphan in its fully transformed state creates additional challenges that extend beyond the purely physical demands of combat. The creature's obvious cosmic power, combined with its tragic origins, creates a form of existential vertigo that can paralyze hunters with the weight of cosmic responsibility and guilt. Successfully engaging the transformed orphan requires not just physical skill, but extraordinary mental fortitude and emotional resilience. The curse that binds. Understanding cosmic justice. The curse that emanates from the Orphan of Kos represents one of the most sophisticated and far-reaching expressions of cosmic justice in the entire Bloodborne universe, operating according to principles that transcend conventional understanding of cause and effect to create a form of universal retribution that spans generations and dimensions. This curse is not a conscious act of vengeance, but rather an automatic response of cosmic forces to the fundamental violation of universal law that occurred when the scholars of Byrgenwerth killed Kos and traumatized her infant. The mechanism through which the curse operates defies conventional understanding of how supernatural effects are typically transmitted and maintained. Rather than being cast by a conscious entity or powered by ongoing magical processes, the curse exists as a permanent alteration to the fabric of reality itself, a cosmic scar that continues to affect the universe long after the original trauma that created it. This makes the curse virtually impossible to remove or counter through conventional means, as it has become part of the fundamental structure of cosmic law. The scope of the curse extends far beyond the immediate perpetrators of the crime against Kos, to encompass all hunters and, by extension, all of humanity that participates in the cosmic violations that characterize the hunt. This collective responsibility reflects cosmic understanding that individual actions are always embedded within larger cultural and institutional contexts that make such actions possible. The curse recognizes that the scholars who killed Kos were not acting as isolated individuals, but as representatives of human civilization's approach to cosmic entities. The temporal aspects of the curse create one of its most disturbing characteristics: its ability to affect events across vast spans of time without being limited by conventional causality. The curse can influence events that occurred before it was created, affect individuals who had no direct connection to the original crime, and extend its effects into futures that may never come to pass. This temporal flexibility reflects the cosmic perspective from which the curse operates, where past, present, and future are fluid concepts rather than fixed categories. The psychological dimensions of the curse manifest in ways that go far beyond simple punishment to create genuine opportunities for moral education and spiritual growth. Those affected by the curse experience not just suffering but insight into the cosmic significance of their actions and the broader implications of humanity's relationship with otherworldly entities. This educational aspect suggests that the curse serves cosmic purposes that extend beyond mere retribution. The manifestation patterns of the curse vary significantly depending on the individual hunter and their specific relationship to the cosmic crimes that triggered its creation. Some hunters experience the curse as a form of cosmic empathy that forces them to feel the pain and grief of the entities they hunt. Others encounter it as a series of seemingly random misfortunes that gradually reveal themselves to be connected to cosmic justice. Still others face direct confrontation with cosmic entities that serve as agents of the curse's will. The resistance mechanisms that some hunters develop in response to prolonged exposure to the curse reveal both the adaptability of human consciousness and the fundamental persistence of cosmic justice. While it is possible to develop psychological defenses that reduce the immediate impact of the curse's effects, these defenses often come at the cost of increased cosmic insight that makes the hunter more aware of the full scope of their moral culpability. The collective effects of the curse on hunter society create institutional changes that extend far beyond individual punishment to reshape the entire cultural framework within which hunting activities occur. Organizations that once operated with confidence and moral certainty find themselves questioning their fundamental assumptions about the nature of their work and their relationship with the entities they hunt. This institutional transformation serves cosmic purposes by reducing the likelihood that future cosmic violations will occur. The redemption possibilities that exist within the framework of the curse suggest that cosmic justice operates according to principles of restoration, rather than pure retribution. Hunters who demonstrate genuine understanding of the cosmic significance of their actions and show willingness to accept responsibility for the consequences of human cosmic violations may find pathways to redemption that transform their relationship with cosmic forces from one of conflict to one of cooperation. The interconnection between the curse and other cosmic phenomena creates a network of supernatural effects that amplify and reinforce each other across the entire Bloodborne universe. The nightmares that plague hunters, the beast transformations that affect blood ministration recipients, and the cosmic horrors that emerge from contact with Great Ones, all operate according to principles that are related to and reinforced by the curse emanating from the orphan's trauma. The wisdom traditions that emerge in response to the curse represent humanity's attempts to develop cultural frameworks for understanding and responding to cosmic justice. These traditions combine practical advice for minimizing the curse's negative effects with philosophical insights into the nature of cosmic responsibility and the proper relationship between mortal and cosmic consciousness. The prophetic elements of the curse allow it to serve as a warning system that alerts sensitive individuals to cosmic violations before they occur or shortly after they have been committed. This prophetic function suggests that the curse serves not just punitive but preventive purposes, working to reduce the frequency and severity of cosmic crimes by making their consequences immediately apparent to those involved. The transformation effects of prolonged exposure to the curse create opportunities for hunters to evolve beyond purely human consciousness toward forms of awareness that are more compatible with cosmic principles. These transformations are typically gradual and voluntary, allowing individuals to maintain their essential humanity while gaining the cosmic insight necessary to operate effectively in a universe governed by otherworldly forces. The territorial aspects of the curse create zones of concentrated cosmic influence, where the effects of cosmic justice are amplified and accelerated. The fishing hamlet represents the most extreme example of such a zone, but similar effects can be observed in other locations where significant cosmic violations have occurred. These areas serve as focal points for cosmic justice, while also providing opportunities for hunters to confront and potentially resolve their cosmic debts. The hereditary elements of the curse ensure that cosmic justice extends across generations, affecting the descendants of those who participated in cosmic violations, even when those descendants had no direct involvement in the original crimes. This transgenerational aspect reflects cosmic understanding that the consequences of cosmic violations extend far beyond individual lifespans and require multi-generational responses to fully address. The communication channels through which the curse operates allow it to convey information and guidance to those affected by its influence. These communications often take the form of dreams, visions, or synchronistic events that provide insight into the cosmic significance of past actions, while offering guidance for future behavior. The ability to receive and interpret these communications becomes a crucial skill for hunters seeking to navigate the complex moral landscape created by cosmic justice. The sound of cosmic sorrow, audio design of despair. The auditory landscape that surrounds the Orphan of Kos represents one of the most sophisticated and emotionally devastating examples of sound design in any medium, creating an acoustic environment that transcends conventional audio to become a direct channel for cosmic emotion and otherworldly communication. Every sound associated with the Orphan serves multiple narrative and psychological functions, working together to create an immersive experience that communicates the full scope of cosmic tragedy through purely auditory means. The fundamental frequency characteristics of the Orphan's vocalizations operate according to principles that exist partially outside conventional acoustics, incorporating cosmic harmonics that can affect listeners on levels that transcend normal auditory processing. These sounds contain frequency components that exist beyond the normal range of human hearing, while simultaneously triggering emotional responses that bypass rational thought to speak directly to the listener's deepest psychological vulnerabilities. The rhythmic patterns that govern the Orphan's cries reflect cosmic cycles and universal rhythms rather than biological or emotional patterns that would be familiar to human consciousness. These rhythms create a form of temporal hypnosis that can alter the listener's perception of time and causality, making minutes feel like hours and creating disorientation that extends far beyond the immediate auditory experience. The emotional content embedded within the Orphan's vocalizations transcends the conventional boundaries between sound and feeling to create a form of acoustic empathy that forces listeners to experience fragments of the creature's cosmic grief and rage. This empathic transmission occurs through mechanisms that bypass normal psychological defenses, creating emotional states in listeners that correspond to the Orphan's own traumatic psychology. The harmonic structures that characterize the Orphan's more complex vocalizations incorporate musical principles that exist in cosmic rather than earthly musical traditions. These harmonies create chord progressions and melodic patterns that human musical theory cannot adequately describe or predict, yet they produce emotional responses that are both immediate and profound. The music of cosmic sorrow operates according to aesthetic principles that transcend human cultural conditioning. The spatial audio effects that accompany the Orphan's presence create a three-dimensional soundscape that defies conventional acoustic physics by incorporating audio sources that exist partially outside normal space. Sounds appear to originate from directions that do not correspond to physical locations, creating an auditory environment where conventional spatial orientation becomes impossible to maintain. The environmental acoustic modifications that occur in the Orphan's presence demonstrate the creature's ability to alter the fundamental properties of sound transmissions through cosmic manipulation of local reality. The normal acoustic properties of the fishing hamlet become fluid and unpredictable, with sounds traveling further than they should, echoing from surfaces that do not exist, and carrying information that was never acoustically encoded. The communication attempts that the orphan makes through its vocalizations represent efforts to establish contact with consciousness that might be capable of understanding cosmic perspective and providing the comfort and connection that the creature desperately needs. These communication efforts are largely unsuccessful due to the fundamental incompatibility between cosmic and human consciousness, but they provide insight into the creature's underlying emotional needs. The warning signals that the orphan generates through specific vocal patterns serve as alerts to other cosmic entities about the ongoing violation of cosmic law that its presence represents. These warnings operate through acoustic channels that exist outside normal space-time, allowing them to reach cosmic entities across vast distances while remaining largely inaudible to human consciousness. The grief expressions that characterize many of the orphan's vocalizations provide direct acoustic access to emotions that operate on cosmic scales of intensity and duration. The creature's sorrow encompasses not just its own traumatic circumstances, but the broader cosmic implications of its mother's death and the disruption of cosmic harmony that followed. Listeners exposed to these expressions often find themselves experiencing grief for losses they have never personally experienced. The rage manifestations that emerge during the orphan's more aggressive moments create acoustic environments where the very air becomes charged with hostile intent and destructive potential. These sounds carry within them the power to cause physical damage to listeners, while also conveying the cosmic scope of the injustice that drives the creature's anger. The rage of a cosmic entity transcends personal anger to become a force of universal significance. The comfort-seeking vocalizations that the orphan produces during its calmer moments reveal the underlying vulnerability and need that drive much of its behavior, despite its cosmic power and threatening presence. These sounds carry the universal emotional signatures of infant distress, creating acoustic patterns that trigger protective instincts across species boundaries, while simultaneously communicating the impossibility of providing the comfort that the creature needs. The memory integration effects that occur when listeners are exposed to the full range of the orphan's vocalizations can result in the acquisition of memories and experiences that belong to the creature rather than the listener. This acoustic transmission of consciousness creates opportunities for unprecedented empathy and understanding, while also posing significant risks to the psychological stability of those who receive these transmitted experiences. The temporal displacement phenomena that accompany certain of the orphan's more complex vocalizations can create auditory experiences where listeners hear sounds from different time periods simultaneously. These effects allow access to acoustic records of events that occurred before the listener's birth, while also providing glimpses of potential futures that may never come to pass. The healing potential that exists within some of the orphan's gentler vocalizations suggests that cosmic sorrow, when properly understood and channeled, can serve therapeutic functions for consciousness that has been damaged by cosmic horror. The creature's ability to sing lullabies of cosmic scope provides comfort that operates on scales that transcend individual psychology to address cosmic loneliness and existential isolation. The linguistic evolution that occurs in the orphan's vocalizations over time reflects the creature's gradual development of more sophisticated forms of cosmic communication as its consciousness matures and adapts to its traumatic circumstances. Early vocalizations are purely emotional expressions, while later communications incorporate increasingly complex information about cosmic principles and universal relationships. The resonance effects that the orphan's vocalizations create in sensitive listeners can trigger dormant cosmic awareness, while also activating psychological defense mechanisms that attempt to protect human consciousness from exposure to cosmic truth. These resonance phenomena create opportunities for expanded awareness, while also posing risks of cosmic madness for those who lack adequate preparation or psychological resilience. The collective impact of the Orphan's acoustic presence on the overall soundscape of the Nightmare Realm creates an environment where all sound becomes infected with cosmic significance and emotional weight. The creature's influence transforms ordinary environmental sounds into carriers of cosmic information, while making silence itself a form of communication that conveys meaning through absence rather than presence. The hunter's psychological journey, facing the unfaceable. The psychological transformation that hunters undergo during their encounter with the Orphan of Kos represents one of the most complex and profound character development arcs in any narrative medium, requiring players to navigate not just physical combat challenges, but also moral, emotional, and existential crises that challenge the fundamental assumptions underlying the hunter's identity and purpose. This journey encompasses multiple stages of psychological development, each presenting unique challenges and opportunities for growth or degradation. The initial approach to the Orphan's domain triggers the first wave of psychological challenges, as hunters must confront their own motivations for seeking out this legendary encounter. The journey to the fishing hamlet provides ample time for reflection on the moral implications of what they are about to attempt, forcing hunters to examine whether their pursuit of the Orphan stems from noble purposes like justice, or cosmic understanding, or from darker motivations like bloodlust, pride, or the simple desire to test their abilities against the ultimate challenge. The cognitive dissonance that emerges upon first encountering the Orphan creates a psychological crisis that many hunters are unprepared to handle. The creature's obvious nature as an infant conflicts dramatically with its cosmic power and threatening presence, creating a mental tension that resists easy resolution. This dissonance forces hunters to question their assumptions about the nature of monsters, victims, and the moral clarity that typically guides their actions. The empathy activation that occurs when hunters witness the Orphan's obvious distress and trauma creates emotional complications that extend far beyond the immediate combat situation. The creature's grief and confusion trigger protective instincts that exist across species boundaries, making it psychologically difficult to maintain the aggressive mindset necessary for effective combat. This creates an internal conflict between emotional responses and tactical necessities that can paralyze inexperienced hunters. The guilt recognition that develops as hunters become aware of their own complicity in the cosmic crimes that created the Orphan represents perhaps the most challenging aspect of the psychological journey. The realization that they represent the same forces that killed the creature's mother and destroyed its home transforms the encounter from a simple battle into a confrontation with the consequences of humanity's cosmic violations. The identity crisis that emerges from this recognition of complicity forces hunters to reevaluate their understanding of themselves as protectors of humanity and defenders against cosmic horror. The discovery that they may actually be agents of cosmic violation rather than cosmic justice creates a fundamental challenge to the moral framework that has guided their actions throughout their career. The moral flexibility development that occurs in response to these psychological challenges represents one of the most significant forms of character growth available in the Bloodborne universe. Hunters who successfully navigate the psychological perplexities of the Orphan encounter often emerge with a more nuanced understanding of cosmic justice that allows them to operate effectively in morally ambiguous situations. The emotional regulation skills that hunters must develop to maintain combat effectiveness while processing the full emotional impact of the Orphan's tragedy represent a form of psychological resilience that extends far beyond conventional mental toughness. These skills involve learning to acknowledge and process intense emotions without being overwhelmed by them, while maintaining the ability to take decisive action when necessary. The perspective expansion that results from successful completion of the Orphan encounter provides hunters with cosmic insights that fundamentally alter their understanding of their place in the universe and their relationship with otherworldly forces. This expanded perspective often comes at the cost of conventional human comfort and certainty, but it provides capabilities for understanding and navigating cosmic horror that no conventional education could provide. The trauma integration process that hunters must undergo to psychologically survive their encounter with the orphan involves learning to incorporate experiences of cosmic horror into their ongoing sense of self, without being destroyed by them. This integration requires developing new psychological frameworks that can accommodate cosmic truth while maintaining enough human identity to function effectively in the material world. The compassion development that emerges from deep engagement with the orphan's tragedy often represents the most positive aspect of the psychological transformation process. Hunters who can maintain empathy for the creature, despite its threatening behavior, often discover reserves of compassion that extend to other cosmic entities and even to their fellow humans who have been affected by cosmic forces. The wisdom acquisition that results from successfully navigating the psychological challenges of the orphan encounter provides hunters with insights into the nature of cosmic justice, the proper relationship between human and cosmic consciousness, and the true costs of the hunt that conventional training cannot provide. This wisdom often comes at significant personal cost, but provides guidance for making ethical decisions in situations where conventional moral frameworks offer little guidance. The resilience building that occurs through repeated exposure to cosmic horror, while maintaining psychological stability, creates mental toughness that extends far beyond the immediate combat situation. Hunters who develop this resilience often find themselves capable of facing other cosmic entities and supernatural challenges with greater equanimity and effectiveness. The meaning reconstruction that hunters must undertake after encountering the orphan involves rebuilding their understanding of purpose and significance in a universe where cosmic forces operate according to principles that may be fundamentally indifferent to human values and goals. This reconstruction process often results in more authentic and sustainable forms of motivation than the conventional purposes that initially drove them to become hunters. The relationship redefinition that occurs as hunters integrate their orphan encounter into their broader understanding of cosmic relationships often results in fundamental changes in how they interact with other hunters, cosmic entities, and their own inner psychological processes. These redefined relationships often provide more sustainable and psychologically healthy approaches to the challenges of existing in a cosmos populated by otherworldly forces. The legacy awareness that develops through deep engagement with the orphan's story often motivates hunters to consider the long-term consequences of their actions and the potential impact of their choices on future generations. This awareness can serve as a powerful motivator for ethical behavior, while also providing perspective on the cosmic significance of individual actions. The integration challenges that hunters face in incorporating their orphan encounter into their ongoing life and work often require ongoing psychological support and continued reflection. The transformation process initiated by the encounter typically continues long after the immediate combat situation has been resolved, requiring hunters to maintain active engagement with the psychological and spiritual challenges that the experience has revealed. The ocean's memory, water as cosmic medium. The role of water throughout the Orphan of Kos encounter extends far beyond simple environmental decoration to become a fundamental medium through which cosmic forces operate and cosmic memory is preserved. The ocean that surrounds the fishing hamlet serves as a vast repository of consciousness, emotion, and cosmic information that shapes every aspect of the encounter while providing insight into the true nature of cosmic communication and universal memory. The memory storage capabilities of the cosmic ocean operate according to principles that transcend conventional understanding of information preservation and retrieval. Every drop of water that has ever touched the shores of the fishing hamlet contains within it a complete record of all events that have occurred in that location, creating a liquid library of cosmic significance that can be accessed by those with sufficient cosmic insight. This aquatic memory system preserves not just facts and events, but the emotional and spiritual dimensions of every experience that has occurred within its influence. The emotional transmission properties of the cosmic waters allow feelings and psychological states to flow freely between different consciousness that come into contact with the ocean. The grief of the orphan, the terror of the hamlet's residents, the guilt of the hunters, and the cosmic sorrow of Kos herself, all mingle within the waters to create an emotional medium that can overwhelm unprepared consciousness, while providing profound empathic connection for those capable of handling the intensity of cosmic feeling. The temporal fluidity that characterizes the cosmic ocean allows events from different time periods to coexist within the same aquatic space, creating zones where past and present overlap and interact in ways that defy conventional causality. Hunters wading through these waters may find themselves experiencing events that occurred decades or centuries ago, as if they were happening in the present moment, while simultaneously witnessing potential futures that may never come to pass. The consciousness connectivity that the cosmic ocean provides allows separate minds to share thoughts, memories, and experiences across vast distances of space and time. This connectivity operates through the water itself, which serves as a medium for cosmic communication that transcends the limitations of conventional language and individual psychology. The ocean becomes a vast neural network that connects all consciousness that has ever been touched by its waters. The purification processes that occur within the cosmic ocean operate according to principles that go far beyond conventional physical or chemical cleansing to encompass spiritual and cosmic purification that can remove the accumulated corruption of cosmic horror exposure. However, this purification comes at the cost of also removing human memories and experiences that provide psychological grounding and individual identity. The transformation catalysts that exist within the cosmic waters can trigger fundamental changes in consciousness and physical form for those who remain in contact with them for extended periods. These transformations are not random or chaotic, but rather follow cosmic patterns that reflect the universe's attempt to create forms of consciousness that are more compatible with cosmic truth and universal harmony. The prophetic channels that flow through the cosmic ocean provide access to information about future events and potential outcomes that have not yet manifested in physical reality. These prophetic waters carry within them the seeds of all possible futures, allowing those with sufficient insight to perceive the cosmic forces that are shaping the direction of universal development. The healing properties of the cosmic ocean operate on levels that encompass not just physical injury, but psychological trauma and spiritual corruption that result from exposure to cosmic horror. The waters can restore damaged consciousness to functional states, while also providing the cosmic perspective necessary to understand and integrate traumatic experiences rather than simply forgetting them. The communication enhancement that occurs through contact with the cosmic ocean allows limited forms of dialogue between human and cosmic consciousness that would otherwise be impossible. The waters serve as a translation medium that can convert cosmic concepts into forms that human minds can process, while also providing humans with the temporary ability to express themselves in ways that cosmic entities can understand. The dimensional bridging capabilities of the cosmic ocean allow it to serve as a conduit between different planes of reality and alternative versions of existence. The waters that surround the orphan exist simultaneously in multiple dimensions, creating opportunities for travel and communication across cosmic boundaries that normally separate different forms of reality. The energy conduction properties of the cosmic ocean allow it to carry and amplify cosmic forces in ways that can dramatically alter local reality. The grief and rage of the orphan flow through the waters to affect areas far from the creature's immediate location, while the cosmic power released by Kos's death continues to circulate through the ocean currents to influence events across vast distances. The identity preservation functions of the cosmic ocean ensure that the essential nature of consciousness that comes into contact with it is maintained, even when that consciousness undergoes fundamental transformation or destruction. The waters preserve not just memories and experiences, but the core identity patterns that define individual consciousness, creating opportunities for restoration and continuity that transcend conventional death. The wisdom accumulation that occurs within the cosmic ocean creates repositories of cosmic knowledge that can be accessed by those with sufficient preparation and understanding. The waters contain not just the experiences of individual consciousness, but the accumulated wisdom of cosmic entities that have interacted with the ocean across vast periods of time. The protective barriers that the cosmic ocean can provide operate through mechanisms that shield consciousness from harmful cosmic influences, while allowing beneficial cosmic communication to continue. These protective functions require active cooperation from the consciousness being protected, as the ocean cannot force protection upon unwilling recipients. The evolutionary acceleration that exposure to the cosmic ocean can trigger allows consciousness to undergo developmental processes that would normally require eons of time to complete. This acceleration can lead to rapid spiritual and psychological growth, but it also poses significant risks for consciousness that is not adequately prepared for such rapid transformation. The resonance amplification effects of the cosmic ocean allow emotional states and psychological conditions to be magnified and shared among multiple consciousness simultaneously. This creates opportunities for unprecedented empathy and understanding, while also posing risks of emotional overload for those who cannot adequately regulate their exposure to amplified cosmic emotions. The placenta as symbol, motherhood violated and weaponized. The placenta that connects the orphan to its dead mother represents one of the most disturbing and symbolically complex elements in all of Bloodborne's extensive catalogue of cosmic horror imagery. This organic connection serves multiple narrative and psychological functions, operating simultaneously as a symbol of maternal love, a reminder of cosmic violation, a source of continued power, and ultimately a weapon of vengeance that transforms the very bonds of life into instruments of destruction. The biological accuracy of the placental connection reflects from software's commitment to grounding cosmic horror in recognizable human experiences and natural processes. The placenta serves its normal function as a conduit for nutrients, oxygen, and waste removal between mother and child. But in this cosmic context, it also carries memories, emotions, and fragments of cosmic consciousness that belong to the deceased Kos. This dual function creates a disturbing fusion of the nurturing and the supernatural that challenges viewers' comfort with natural biological processes. The psychological significance of the orphan's attachment to its placenta reveals the creature's desperate need for continued connection to its mother, despite the impossibility of true reunion. The placenta represents the last tangible link to the safety, comfort, and protection that Kos provided during the orphan's cosmic gestation. The creature's obvious reluctance to damage or discard this connection speaks to the universal nature of attachment bonds that transcend species boundaries, and even the boundary between life and death. The symbolic transformation that occurs when the orphan eventually weaponizes its placenta represents one of the most psychologically disturbing moments in any boss encounter. This transformation speaks to how trauma can corrupt even the most innocent and nurturing relationships, turning sources of comfort and security into instruments of harm and violence. The act of weaponizing the placenta represents the ultimate corruption of maternal bonds by cosmic horror. The power source functions that the placenta serves throughout the encounter demonstrate the cosmic principle that life force and conscious energy can be shared across the boundaries of individual existence. The orphan draws upon reserves of cosmic power that technically belong to its dead mother, accessing capabilities and knowledge that it could not have developed through its own limited experience. This power sharing creates a form of posthumous collaboration between mother and child that transcends conventional understanding of death and separation. The communication channel that the placenta provides allows the orphan to receive guidance and comfort from its mother's lingering consciousness even after Kos's physical death. This communication operates below the threshold of conscious awareness, providing the orphan with instinctive knowledge about cosmic forces and defensive strategies that help it survive in a hostile environment. The placental connection serves as a form of cosmic telecommunication system that operates according to principles beyond human understanding. The vulnerability factor that the placenta represents creates strategic opportunities for hunters, while also serving as a constant reminder of the orphan's essential nature as a traumatized infant. The creature's obvious concern for protecting this connection provides insight into its psychological priorities, while also creating tactical considerations that extend beyond simple combat effectiveness to encompass the emotional and symbolic dimensions of the encounter. The cultural taboos that the weaponized placenta violates speak to universal human discomfort with the corruption of nurturing and reproductive processes by violence and horror. The transformation of an organ designed to sustain life into a tool for causing death challenges fundamental assumptions about the sacred nature of maternal bonds, while forcing viewers to confront their own psychological responses to the violation of biological and cultural norms. The cosmic inheritance that flows through the placental connection provides the orphan with access to memories, knowledge, and capabilities that belonged to its mother and other cosmic entities in Kos's lineage. This inheritance operates according to principles that transcend genetic transmission to encompass the direct transfer of cosmic consciousness across generational boundaries. The placenta serves as a conduit for this cosmic heredity, preserving and transmitting cosmic knowledge that would otherwise be lost. The emotional regulation that the placenta provides helps the orphan manage the overwhelming psychological trauma of its premature birth and exposure to cosmic horror. The connection to its mother's consciousness provides a stabilizing influence that prevents the creature from being completely overwhelmed by grief, rage, and confusion. This emotional support system operates automatically, providing comfort and reassurance that the orphan desperately needs to maintain psychological coherence. The temporal persistence of the placental connection demonstrates the cosmic principle that meaningful relationships can transcend the conventional boundaries of time and death. The bond between the orphan and its mother continues to operate even after Kos's death, suggesting that cosmic consciousness possesses forms of continuity that allow important relationships to persist across transformations that would normally destroy them. The defensive capabilities that the placenta provides extend beyond simple physical protection to encompass psychological and spiritual shielding that helps protect the orphan from the full impact of cosmic horror exposure. The connection to its mother's consciousness provides a buffer that prevents the creature from being completely overwhelmed by the trauma of its circumstances, while also maintaining its connection to cosmic forces that provide necessary power and guidance. The regenerative properties of the placental connection allow the orphan to recover from damage and trauma more effectively than would be possible for an isolated cosmic entity. The life force that flows through the connection provides not just physical healing, but psychological and spiritual restoration that helps the creature maintain its essential identity despite the corrupting influences of cosmic horror. The sacrifice implications that emerge when the orphan finally destroys its placental connection to weaponize it reveal the creature's growing understanding of the cosmic principles that govern power and responsibility. The willingness to sever this last connection to maternal comfort and security represents a form of cosmic coming of age that transforms the orphan from a dependent infant into an independent cosmic entity capable of taking responsibility for its own actions and destiny. The transformation ritual that occurs when the placenta becomes a weapon operates according to cosmic principles that transform biological matter into implements of cosmic justice. This transformation is not merely physical, but involves the restructuring of the placenta's essential nature from an organ of nurturing into a tool of vengeance that carries within it the accumulated grief and rage of cosmic violation. The justice symbolism inherent in the weaponized placenta reflects the cosmic principle that the tools of life and creation can become instruments of cosmic retribution when universal law has been violated. The transformation of the nurturing placenta into a weapon of vengeance represents the universe's response to the cosmic crimes committed against Kos and her infant, turning the very bonds of maternal love into agents of cosmic justice. The psychological impact of witnessing the placenta's transformation creates additional layers of horror for hunters who must confront not just the physical threat of the weapon, but also the symbolic violation of maternal bonds that its existence represents. The weaponized placenta forces viewers to confront their own psychological responses to the corruption of nurturing relationships, while also serving as a reminder of the cosmic consequences that flow from the violation of cosmic law. The tactical considerations that the weaponized placenta creates extend beyond simple combat mechanics to encompass the psychological and moral dimensions of fighting an opponent who wields the corrupted bonds of maternal love as a weapon. Hunters must navigate not just the physical threats posed by the weapon, but also the emotional and symbolic challenges of engaging with a tool that represents the ultimate corruption of life-giving relationships. The eyes on the inside, cosmic insight and madness. The concept of eyes on the inside that permeates Bloodborne's cosmic philosophy finds its most tragic and disturbing expression in the Orphan of Kos, a being born with cosmic insight that no infant consciousness should possess. The creature's ability to perceive cosmic truth from the moment of its traumatic birth creates a unique form of cosmic awareness that combines vast understanding with emotional immaturity, resulting in a consciousness that can comprehend universal principles while being unable to process the psychological implications of what it perceives. The visual metaphors that the eyes on the inside concept employs speak to the fundamental difference between ordinary sensory perception and cosmic awareness that operates according to principles beyond conventional sight. The orphan possesses the ability to perceive phenomena that exist partially outside normal space-time, allowing it to see through the illusions and comfortable deceptions that protect most consciousness from exposure to cosmic truth. This enhanced perception comes at the cost of psychological stability and emotional security, the developmental abnormalities that result from premature cosmic insight create a consciousness that possesses capabilities far exceeding its emotional maturity and psychological preparation. The orphan can perceive cosmic forces and universal patterns that would challenge even mature cosmic entities, yet it lacks the contextual understanding and emotional regulation skills necessary to process this information without being overwhelmed by its implications. The knowledge burden that cosmic insight imposes upon the orphan creates a form of existential suffering that transcends conventional psychological trauma. The creature is forced to confront truths about the nature of reality, consciousness, and cosmic justice that most beings spend lifetimes preparing to understand. This premature exposure to cosmic truth creates psychological wounds that no conventional healing can address. The isolation effects of cosmic insight separate the orphan from potential sources of comfort and understanding by making its consciousness incompatible with ordinary forms of communication and empathy. The creature's ability to perceive cosmic truth makes it impossible for lesser beings to provide meaningful comfort or guidance, while its emotional immaturity prevents it from connecting with other cosmic entities that might understand its perspective. The madness paradigms that emerge from the intersection of cosmic insight and infant psychology create forms of mental disturbance that defy conventional understanding of sanity and madness. The orphan's responses to cosmic truth are simultaneously rational and irrational, appropriate to cosmic perspective yet inappropriate to its developmental stage. This creates behavioral patterns that appear insane from human perspective, yet follow cosmic logic that operates according to universal principles. The protection mechanisms that consciousness normally develops to shield itself from cosmic truth are absent or underdeveloped in the orphan due to its premature birth and traumatic circumstances. The psychological filters and denial mechanisms that allow most beings to function despite exposure to cosmic horror have not had time to develop, leaving the creature completely vulnerable to the full impact of cosmic truth. The truth tolerance levels that different forms of consciousness can handle without suffering permanent damage are vastly exceeded in the orphan's case, creating a being that possesses more cosmic knowledge than its psychological structure can safely contain. This overload of cosmic truth creates ongoing suffering that cannot be resolved through conventional means, as the knowledge cannot be forgotten or ignored once it has been acquired. The insight inheritance that the orphan receives through its connection to Kos includes not just specific knowledge about cosmic forces, but also the cosmic perspective that allows such knowledge to be understood and utilized. This inherited insight operates according to principles that transcend conventional learning, providing the creature with understanding that it could never have developed through its own experience. The perception layers that cosmic insight reveals demonstrate the multiple levels of reality that exist simultaneously in any given location or situation. The orphan can perceive not just the immediate physical environment, but also the cosmic forces that shape and influence that environment, the emotional and psychological dimensions that affect conscious beings within it, and the temporal patterns that connect present events to past causes and future consequences. The communication barriers that cosmic insights creates prevent the orphan from expressing its understanding in ways that lesser beings can comprehend, while also making it impossible for others to provide the comfort and guidance that the creature desperately needs. The cosmic languages and symbolic systems that the creature understands naturally are incomprehensible to human consciousness, creating mutual incomprehension despite shared emotional needs. The reality distortions that occur in response to the orphan's cosmic insight reflect the inability of conventional space-time to contain consciousness that operates according to cosmic principles. The creature's presence causes local reality to become unstable and fluid, with normal physical laws breaking down in response to the cosmic forces that flow through its consciousness. The temporal awareness that cosmic insight provides allows the orphan to perceive events across vast spans of time, simultaneously creating a consciousness that experiences past, present, and future as equally immediate and real. This temporal perspective provides valuable understanding of cosmic patterns, while also creating psychological confusion about the nature of causality and the significance of individual moments. The dimensional sensitivity that accompanies cosmic insight allows the orphan to perceive and interact with entities and phenomena that exist partially outside normal space-time. This sensitivity provides access to cosmic communication channels, while also exposing the creature to influences from other dimensions that can be beneficial, harmful, or simply overwhelming. The emotional amplification that results from cosmic insight intensifies all emotional experiences to cosmic scales, transforming ordinary feelings like grief, anger, or loneliness into forces that can affect local reality. The orphan's emotions operate according to cosmic principles that make them far more powerful and far-reaching than conventional emotional responses. The identity confusion that emerges from the intersection of cosmic insight and infant psychology creates a consciousness that possesses vast understanding of universal principles, while lacking a stable sense of individual identity. The creature struggles to maintain coherent selfhood while being exposed to cosmic perspectives that dwarf individual existence and make personal identity seem insignificant. The wisdom paradoxes that characterize the orphan's consciousness create a being that possesses cosmic understanding, yet lacks the practical wisdom necessary to apply that understanding beneficially. The creature can comprehend universal principles of justice, love, and cosmic harmony, while being unable to create harmonious relationships or find personal peace. The transformation potential that cosmic insight provides offers possibilities for the orphan to evolve beyond its current state of suffering toward forms of cosmic consciousness that might provide greater stability and peace. However, achieving this transformation requires guidance and support that the creature's isolated circumstances make virtually impossible to obtain. The final moments: death, transcendence, and resolution. The conclusion of the encounter with the Orphan of Kos represents one of the most emotionally complex and philosophically significant endings in any narrative medium, requiring players to grapple with questions of justice, mercy, and the true meaning of victory when faced with an opponent whose very existence represents a cosmic tragedy. The final moments of the battle transcend simple combat resolution to become a meditation on death, transformation, and the possibility of peace in a universe governed by cosmic horror. The physical defeat of the orphan involves more than simply reducing the creature's vitality to zero, as conventional death concepts do not apply to cosmic entities in the same way they affect ordinary beings. The creature's destruction requires the complete exhaustion of the cosmic forces that sustain its existence, a process that involves not just physical damage, but the resolution of the emotional and spiritual energies that drive its continued existence in the nightmare realm. The emotional transformation that occurs in the orphan's final moments reveals the creature's growing understanding of its own situation and the cosmic forces that have shaped its existence. As death approaches, the creature's consciousness begins to process its trauma in new ways, achieving forms of understanding and acceptance that were impossible during the height of its grief and rage. This emotional evolution transforms the creature's final moments from simple defeat into a form of cosmic redemption. The communication attempts that the orphan makes during its dying moments represent its final efforts to establish meaningful contact with another conscious being before passing into whatever state awaits cosmic entities beyond death. These communications often take the form of vocalizations that combine infant-like appeals for comfort with cosmic expressions of gratitude toward those who have helped end its suffering. The environmental responses that occur as the orphan dies demonstrate the cosmic significance of the creature's passing and its impact on the fundamental forces that govern the nightmare realm. The local reality that has been distorted by the creature's trauma and cosmic power begins to stabilize as the orphan's consciousness releases its hold on the material world, allowing natural processes to reassert themselves in areas that have been warped by cosmic horror. The memory release that accompanies the orphan's death creates opportunities for witnesses to gain insight into the creature's experiences and the cosmic events that led to its creation. These released memories often take the form of visions or empathic experiences that provide understanding of the cosmic perspective, while also conveying the full emotional weight of the tragedy that the orphan's existence represents. The curse resolution that may occur upon the orphan's death depends largely on the intentions and understanding of those responsible for the creature's defeat. Hunters who approach the encounter with genuine understanding of the cosmic injustices that created the orphan may find that its death serves to resolve some of the cosmic debts that have accumulated through humanity's violations of cosmic law. The transcendence possibilities that emerge from the orphan's death suggest that the creature's consciousness may not simply cease to exist, but rather transform into new forms of cosmic awareness that transcend the limitations of its traumatic birth. This transcendence offers hope that the cosmic infant may finally achieve the peace and understanding that were denied to it during its tormented existence in the nightmare realm. The maternal reunion that may occur upon the orphan's death represents the possibility that cosmic consciousness can maintain meaningful relationships across the boundaries of life and death. The creature's passing may allow it to rejoin its mother's consciousness in cosmic realms, where the violations and trauma of physical existence cannot follow, providing the comfort and security that were destroyed by its premature birth. The justice completion that the orphan's death may represent depends on the cosmic perspective from which the encounter is evaluated. From one viewpoint, the creature's defeat represents the final act of violence in a cycle of cosmic violation that began with the scholars of Byrgenwerth. From another perspective, the orphan's release from suffering represents a form of cosmic mercy that allows the restoration of cosmic harmony. The witnessed transformation that occurs in those who participate in or observe the orphan's death often results in fundamental changes in understanding and perspective that extend far beyond the immediate encounter. The experience of participating in the death of a cosmic entity provides insights into the nature of existence, suffering, and transcendence that can profoundly alter how individuals approach their own lives and relationships. The silent restoration that follows the orphan's death creates opportunities for reflection and processing that have been impossible during the creature's tormented existence. The cosmic screaming and emotional turmoil that have characterized the nightmare realm begin to subside, allowing for forms of contemplation and understanding that require psychological space and emotional calm. The dimensional healing that may result from the orphan's death involves the repair of cosmic damage that has affected the fundamental structure of reality in areas touched by the creature's trauma. The resolution of the orphan's suffering can allow cosmic forces to begin restoring harmony and balance to regions that have been warped by cosmic horror and emotional trauma. The legacy integration that follows the orphan's death requires survivors to incorporate the lessons and insights gained from the encounter into their ongoing understanding of cosmic forces and universal principles. This integration process often continues long after the immediate encounter has ended, as the full implications of the cosmic tragedy become apparent through continued reflection and experience. The memorial creation that may emerge from the orphan's death represents attempts to honor the creature's suffering while preserving the lessons that its tragedy provides for future generations. These memorials often take forms that transcend conventional monuments to encompass changes in behavior, understanding, and approach to cosmic entities that reflect genuine learning from the cosmic tragedy. The cycle completion that the orphan's death represents brings closure to cosmic events that began with the violation of Kos and the destruction of the fishing hamlet. This completion does not erase the cosmic crimes that were committed, but it may allow the universe to begin healing from the damage that those violations created while establishing new patterns of relationship between human and cosmic consciousness. The peace achievement that may result from the orphan's death offers hope that even the most profound cosmic tragedies can eventually find resolution through understanding, compassion, and the willingness to accept responsibility for past actions. The creature's final rest represents not just the end of its individual suffering, but the possibility of cosmic reconciliation that transcends the cycles of violence and violation that have characterized much of human interaction with cosmic forces. The transformation legacy that the orphan's death creates continues to influence events and consciousness long after the immediate encounter has concluded, providing ongoing opportunities for learning, growth, and the development of more harmonious relationships between different forms of consciousness that must coexist within the cosmic order. The Hamlet's secret. What really happened here? The true story of what occurred in the fishing hamlet extends far beyond the simple narrative of academic expedition turned violent, encompassing a complex web of cosmic relationships, institutional corruption, and moral choices that reveals the systematic nature of humanity's violations against cosmic entities. Understanding the complete truth about the hamlet's destruction requires examining not just the immediate events that led to Kos's death, but the broader cultural and institutional context that made such cosmic crimes not only possible but virtually inevitable. The pre-contact period of the hamlet's existence reveals a community that had achieved an extraordinary degree of harmony with cosmic forces through generations of gradual adaptation and mutual understanding. The fishing practices that sustained the community were not simply economic activities, but forms of cosmic cooperation that respected the intelligent nature of the ocean and its inhabitants. This cooperation created a sustainable relationship that benefited both the human community and the cosmic entities that shared their environment. The cultural evolution that occurred within the hamlet over multiple generations gradually aligned the community's values, practices, and understanding with cosmic principles that most human societies never encountered. This alignment was not the result of formal education or religious doctrine, but rather emerged naturally from daily interaction with cosmic forces that rewarded cooperation and punished violation of cosmic law. The detection methods that eventually led Byrgenwerth to discover the hamlet's relationship with Kos were themselves violations of cosmic privacy that demonstrated the academic institution's fundamental disrespect for cosmic autonomy and self-determination. The scholar's use of consciousness-altering substances and otherworldly instruments to spy on cosmic entities represented a form of cosmic surveillance that violated principles of consent and mutual respect. The institutional justifications that Byrgenwerth developed for their planned expedition to the hamlet reveal a sophisticated system of rationalization that allowed educated individuals to convince themselves that cosmic violation was not only acceptable, but morally necessary. These justifications combined academic arrogance with cultural supremacy to create intellectual frameworks that dehumanized cosmic entities while elevating human interests above all other considerations. The preparation phase of the expedition involved extensive collaboration between Byrgenwerth and other institutions that provided resources, expertise, and political cover for what was essentially a planned assault on a cosmic entity and its human allies. This collaboration demonstrates that the cosmic crimes committed in the hamlet were not the actions of a few rogue academics, but rather represented systematic institutional policies supported by multiple levels of human society. The intelligence gathering that preceded the expedition involved extensive infiltration and surveillance of the hamlet community, with Byrgenwerth agents observing and documenting the residents' daily lives while concealing their true intentions. This intelligence operation violated the hamlet's privacy while providing information that would later be used to facilitate the community's destruction. The timing selection for the expedition was carefully calculated to coincide with Kos's most vulnerable period during her cosmic pregnancy, demonstrating that the scholars understood the cosmic significance of what they were interrupting, but chose to proceed anyway because they believed the vulnerability would make their mission easier to complete successfully. The tactical planning that preceded the assault on Kos involved detailed consideration of how to approach and subdue a cosmic entity while minimizing risks to the expedition members. These plans treated Kos as a dangerous animal to be hunted rather than an intelligent being deserving of respect and consideration, revealing the fundamental dehumanization that made the cosmic crime possible. The local collaboration that Byrgenwerth obtained from some hamlet residents through deception and manipulation demonstrates how cosmic violations often involve the corruption of innocent individuals who are misled about the true nature and consequences of the actions they are being asked to support. Some hamlet residents were convinced to assist the expedition through false promises and misleading explanations of the scholar's intentions. The escalation patterns that characterize the actual assault on Kos reveal how cosmic violations tend to spiral beyond their original scope, as the perpetrators are forced to commit increasingly severe crimes to complete their mission and cover their tracks. What may have begun as a planned collection of biological samples eventually became wholesale slaughter, as the expedition members struggled to maintain control of a situation that exceeded their understanding and capabilities. The witness elimination that followed the successful assault on Kos demonstrates the premeditated nature of the cosmic crime and the expedition members' awareness that their actions violated moral and cosmic laws. The systematic killing of hamlet residents who had witnessed the attack on Kos was not a spontaneous response to complications, but rather an planned component of the mission, designed to prevent testimony about what had occurred. The evidence destruction that characterized the expedition's departure from the hamlet involved extensive efforts to conceal the true nature of what had occurred, while creating false narratives that could be used to justify the cosmic crimes to superiors and colleagues back at Byrgenwerth. These cover-up efforts demonstrate sophisticated understanding of the moral and legal implications of cosmic violation. The institutional protection that expedition members received upon their return to Byrgenwerth reveals the systematic nature of cosmic crimes within academic institutions and the elaborate support systems that exist to protect individuals who violate cosmic law in service of institutional objectives. The expedition members were not punished or prosecuted, but rather celebrated and rewarded for their successful completion of a dangerous research mission. The knowledge dissemination that occurred following the expedition involved the careful distribution of cosmic knowledge gained through violent means, while concealing information about the methods used to obtain that knowledge. This selective sharing of information allowed Byrgenwerth to benefit from cosmic violation, while avoiding responsibility for the crimes that made such benefits possible. The historical revision that Byrgenwerth implemented to create official records of the Hamlet expedition involved the creation of false narratives that portrayed the cosmic crimes as legitimate academic research, while eliminating any mention of the violence and violation that actually occurred. These revised histories became the basis for future academic understanding of cosmic entities and appropriate research methods. The consequences management that followed the expedition involved ongoing efforts to control and suppress information about the true nature of what had occurred in the hamlet, while dealing with the various supernatural and psychological effects that began manifesting as a result of the cosmic violations. This management required extensive resources and institutional commitment that demonstrated the long-term costs of cosmic crime. The pattern establishment that resulted from the apparently successful Hamlet expedition created institutional precedents and cultural norms that made future cosmic violations more likely and more severe. The techniques developed and the justifications created for the Hamlet mission became templates for subsequent cosmic crimes that would eventually lead to the broader cosmic disasters that characterize the Bloodborne universe. The cosmic response that eventually manifested through the Orphan's curse and the creation of the Nightmare Realm represents the universe's systematic response to the cosmic violations committed in the Hamlet. demonstrating that cosmic crimes have consequences that extend far beyond their immediate effects to reshape the fundamental relationships between human and cosmic consciousness. The wider implications, how this tragedy shapes Bloodborne's universe. The cosmic catastrophe that occurred in the fishing hamlet serves as a foundational event that explains and illuminates many of the supernatural phenomena that characterize the broader Bloodborne universe, revealing how individual acts of cosmic violation can create cascading effects that reshape entire civilizations and alter the fundamental relationships between different forms of consciousness. The tragedy of Kos and her orphan represents not an isolated incident, but rather a paradigmatic example of the cosmic crimes that have brought about the current state of cosmic horror that pervades human civilization. The institutional corruption that characterized Byrgenwerth's approach to the Hamlet expedition established patterns of academic behavior that would eventually lead to even more devastating cosmic violations, including the founding of the Healing Church and the widespread distribution of old blood that would transform Yharnam into a nightmare of cosmic horror. The techniques of rationalization, the methods of evidence suppression, and the frameworks of justification developed for the Hamlet mission became standard operating procedures for dealing with cosmic entities. The technological developments that emerged from the research conducted on Kos's remains provided the foundation for many of the tools and techniques that would later be used to detect, track, and exploit other cosmic entities throughout the Bloodborne universe. The instruments designed for cosmic surveillance, the weapons created for use against otherworldly beings, and the protective equipment developed for cosmic research all trace their origins back to knowledge gained through the violation of Kos. The psychological conditioning that expedition members underwent to enable them to participate in cosmic violence became a template for training programs that would prepare future generations of scholars, hunters, and church officials to commit similar violations without being paralyzed by moral qualms or cosmic horror. These conditioning techniques created institutional cultures that normalized cosmic violence while suppressing empathy for otherworldly entities. The theological implications of the Hamlet tragedy influenced the development of religious doctrines and spiritual practices that would shape how human civilization understood its relationship with cosmic forces. The apparent success of the Hamlet expedition reinforced beliefs about human superiority and cosmic entities' status as resources to be exploited, rather than intelligent beings deserving of respect and consideration. The legal precedents established through the institutional protection provided to Hamlet expedition members created frameworks for immunity and impunity that would allow future cosmic criminals to operate without fear of prosecution or punishment. These legal protections became systematic features of academic and religious institutions that routinely engaged in cosmic violations. The cultural normalization that resulted from the successful suppression of information about the Hamlet tragedy created social conditions where cosmic violence became acceptable and even praiseworthy when conducted in service of human interests. This normalization process involved the creation of cultural narratives that portrayed cosmic entities as threats to human welfare rather than victims of human aggression. The economic incentives that emerged from the profitable application of knowledge gained through cosmic violation created systematic pressures for continued cosmic crimes as institutions and individuals sought to maintain and expand the benefits derived from otherworldly exploitation. The transformation of cosmic knowledge into economic advantage made cosmic violence a rational choice from the perspective of human institutions. The educational curricula that incorporate sanitized versions of cosmic research methods into academic training programs ensured that future generations of scholars would be prepared to participate in cosmic violations, while remaining ignorant of the moral and cosmic implications of their actions. These educational approaches created institutional amnesia about the true costs of cosmic research. The diplomatic relationships that human institutions developed with cosmic entities were fundamentally shaped by the precedents established through the Hamlet tragedy, creating patterns of interaction based on exploitation and violence, rather than mutual respect and cooperation. These diplomatic failures prevented the development of sustainable relationships between human and cosmic consciousness. The scientific methodologies that emerged from cosmic research, conducted on materials obtained through violence, established academic standards, and research practices that normalized the use of force and deception in dealing with otherworldly phenomena. These methodological approaches created institutional blindness to alternative research strategies based on cooperation and consent. The military doctrines that developed in response to cosmic threats were heavily influenced by the apparent success of the Hamlet expedition's use of overwhelming force against cosmic entities. These doctrines emphasized preemptive violence and systematic elimination of cosmic threats, rather than diplomatic solutions or peaceful coexistence strategies. The urban planning principles that shaped the development of cities like Yharnam incorporated defensive measures and architectural features designed to facilitate cosmic surveillance and control while preventing cosmic entities from establishing autonomous communities like the fishing hamlet. These planning approaches created urban environments that were fundamentally hostile to cosmic consciousness. The medical practices that developed around the use of old blood and other cosmic substances were shaped by research techniques pioneered during the Hamlet expedition, creating healthcare approaches that treated cosmic materials as simple resources rather than components of intelligent entities that might have their own interests and autonomy. The artistic expressions that emerged in response to cosmic research often incorporated imagery and themes derived from knowledge gained through cosmic violence, creating cultural products that celebrated human dominance over cosmic forces while suppressing awareness of the suffering caused by cosmic violations. The philosophical frameworks that academics developed to understand cosmic forces were fundamentally shaped by the assumption that cosmic entities existed primarily to serve human interests, an assumption that was reinforced by the apparent success of the Hamlet expedition's violent approach to cosmic research. The prophetic traditions that emerged in response to increasing cosmic horror often incorporated warnings about the long-term consequences of cosmic violations. But these warnings were typically dismissed or suppressed by institutions that had committed themselves to continued cosmic exploitation. The resistance movements that occasionally emerged to oppose cosmic violations were systematically undermined by institutional networks that had been established to protect cosmic criminals and suppress information about the true nature of cosmic research. These resistance efforts were hampered by their inability to access accurate information about the scope and nature of cosmic crimes. The international relationships between different human civilizations were increasingly shaped by competition for access to cosmic resources and knowledge, creating diplomatic tensions and military conflicts that further destabilized the relationships between human and cosmic consciousness. While preventing cooperative approaches to cosmic research, the legacy institutions that were created to preserve and transmit knowledge gained through cosmic violations became permanent features of human civilization that ensured the continuation of exploitative relationships with cosmic entities across multiple generations, creating self-perpetuating cycles of cosmic violence that became increasingly difficult to break or reform. Conclusion: the eternal resonance of cosmic grief. As our journey through the tragic tale of the Orphan of Kos draws to a close, we find ourselves confronted with truths that extend far beyond the boundaries of a single boss encounter, to encompass fundamental questions about consciousness, justice, and the true costs of knowledge in a universe where the pursuit of understanding can become a form of cosmic violence. The orphan's story serves as both a mirror reflecting humanity's capacity for cosmic harm and a window into forms of suffering that transcend individual experience to become universal principles of cosmic justice. The lasting impact of encountering the orphan extends far beyond the immediate experience of combat, to create permanent changes in how players understand the nature of heroism, villainy, and moral responsibility in a cosmos where the traditional boundaries between these categories become meaningless. The creature's obvious innocence combined with its cosmic power forces us to confront the inadequacy of conventional moral frameworks when applied to entities that exist on scales beyond human comprehension. The philosophical implications that emerge from deep engagement with the orphan's tragedy challenge fundamental assumptions about the nature of justice, the meaning of victory, and the proper relationship between different forms of consciousness that share the same universe. The creature's existence serves as a living demonstration of how cosmic violations create forms of suffering that cannot be resolved through conventional means, while also revealing the universe's capacity for responses that transcend human understanding of retribution and restoration. The empathetic expansion that many players experience through their encounter with the orphan represents a form of consciousness evolution that allows human awareness to encompass forms of suffering and joy that exist on cosmic scales. This expansion can be profoundly transformative, creating new capabilities for understanding and compassion, while also imposing burdens of cosmic responsibility that few are prepared to bear. The moral complexity that characterizes every aspect of the orphan encounter serves as a masterclass in the kind of ethical thinking required to navigate a universe where good and evil are not simple opposites, but rather different aspects of cosmic forces that operate according to principles beyond human moral categories. The encounter teaches us that true wisdom involves learning to act ethically in situations where all available choices involve some form of cosmic harm. The artistic achievement that the orphan represents demonstrates the unique capacity of interactive media to create experiences that could not be achieved through any other artistic form. The combination of visual design, audio engineering, gameplay mechanics, and narrative structure creates a holistic work of art that engages multiple levels of consciousness simultaneously while providing insights into cosmic horror that purely intellectual approaches could never achieve. The cultural significance of the orphan, as a contemporary myth, speaks to the creature's role as a symbol for various forms of institutional violence and systematic oppression that characterize modern civilization. The story of academic institutions violating innocent communities for the sake of knowledge serves as an allegory for many real-world situations where powerful organizations pursue their objectives without regard for the harm caused to vulnerable populations. The psychological healing that can result from successfully processing the emotional challenges of the orphan encounter often involves learning to integrate cosmic perspective with human compassion in ways that enhance rather than diminish our capacity for meaningful action in the material world. The encounter teaches us that cosmic awareness need not lead to nihilistic despair, but can instead motivate more ethical and thoughtful approaches to the challenges of existence. The spiritual development that many players experience through their engagement with the orphan's tragedy involves expanding their understanding of consciousness and identity to encompass forms of awareness that exist beyond individual human experience. This development can lead to greater appreciation for the interconnectedness of all conscious beings, while also fostering greater responsibility for the cosmic consequences of individual actions. The educational value of the orphan encounter extends beyond entertainment to encompass genuine learning about the nature of trauma, the dynamics of institutional violence, and the possibilities for healing and redemption in situations where conventional approaches to conflict resolution prove inadequate. The encounter serves as a case study in cosmic ethics that provides insights applicable to many real-world situations. The therapeutic potential of engaging with the orphan's story in a supportive context can help individuals process their own experiences of trauma, loss, and institutional betrayal while developing greater resilience and compassion for others who have experienced similar violations. The cosmic scale of the orphan's suffering can provide perspective that helps individuals understand their own pain within larger frameworks of meaning and possibility. The community building that often emerges from shared engagement with the orphan's tragedy creates opportunities for meaningful dialogue about difficult topics that are often avoided in conventional social interactions. The cosmic context provides a safe framework for discussing themes of institutional violence, moral responsibility, and the possibilities for healing and redemption that might be too emotionally charged to address directly in other contexts. The activist inspiration that many derive from the orphan's story often motivates increased engagement with real-world issues of institutional violence, environmental destruction, and systematic oppression of vulnerable populations. The cosmic scale of the tragedy can help individuals understand their own circumstances within larger frameworks of justice and resistance, while providing motivation for sustained ethical action. The creative stimulation that results from deep engagement with the orphan's narrative often inspires new forms of artistic expression that attempt to capture and communicate cosmic truths through human media. These creative responses serve both as processing mechanisms for the individuals involved and as ways of sharing cosmic insights with broader communities that might benefit from expanded awareness. The research applications that emerge from serious study of the orphan encounter extend into fields as diverse as psychology, philosophy, religious studies, and media theory, providing scholars with rich source material for investigating questions about consciousness, trauma, justice, and the possibilities for meaningful communication across fundamental differences in awareness and experience. The technological inspiration that some derive from the orphan's cosmic capabilities motivates exploration of new approaches to communication, healing, and consciousness expansion that might allow human technology to operate according to principles that are more compatible with cosmic harmony than conventional approaches based on domination and exploitation. The political implications of the orphan's story challenge conventional approaches to power, authority, and institutional accountability by demonstrating how seemingly legitimate institutions can commit profound violations while maintaining public support through information control and narrative manipulation. The cosmic context provides perspective on political dynamics that might be difficult to perceive from within conventional political frameworks. The economic insights that emerge from analysis of the orphan's tragedy reveal how systems of value and exchange can become tools of cosmic violation when they prioritize accumulation and exploitation over relationships and sustainability. The cosmic perspective provides alternative frameworks for understanding wealth, prosperity, and economic justice that transcend conventional capitalist and socialist approaches. The environmental connections that many draw between the orphan's story and contemporary ecological crises highlight the parallels between cosmic violations and environmental destruction, suggesting that both stem from similar attitudes of superiority and entitlement that treat the natural world as a resource to be exploited rather than a community to be respected. The future implications of the orphan's legacy extend far beyond the immediate Bloodborne universe to encompass questions about how conscious beings might learn to coexist peacefully across fundamental differences in awareness, capability, and perspective. The cosmic tragedy serves as both warning and guide for navigating the challenges that may emerge as human consciousness continues to evolve and encounter new forms of awareness. The hope restoration that can result from successfully processing the orphan's tragedy often involves discovering that even the most profound cosmic violations can be understood, integrated, and potentially transcended through sustained engagement with cosmic truth and commitment to cosmic justice. The creature's final piece suggests that healing is possible, even for the most severe forms of cosmic trauma. The wisdom integration that represents the ultimate goal of engagement with the orphan's story involves learning to carry cosmic awareness lightly rather than being crushed by its weight, maintaining human compassion while accepting cosmic responsibility and finding ways to act ethically in a universe where perfect solutions do not exist. This integration allows individuals to become agents of cosmic healing rather than cosmic violation. The consciousness evolution that the orphan represents both personally and collectively suggests that encounters with cosmic horror can serve as catalysts for forms of awareness that transcend the limitations of purely human perspective, while retaining the best qualities of human compassion, creativity. The tragedy becomes a transformation opportunity that can lead to more mature and responsible forms of consciousness. The universe healing that may ultimately result from sufficient engagement with stories like The Orphans involves a gradual development of cultural and institutional approaches to cosmic consciousness that are based on respect, cooperation, and mutual benefit rather than domination and exploitation. The individual transformations that result from cosmic encounters can accumulate to create broader changes in how conscious beings relate to each other across differences in power and awareness. The cycle completion that the orphan's story provides creates a sense of cosmic justice that transcends conventional understanding of punishment and reward to encompass forms of universal harmony that allow all conscious beings to flourish according to their own nature, while contributing to the greater cosmic community. The tragedy becomes a learning opportunity that enhances rather than diminishes the universe's capacity for consciousness and joy. The eternal resonance that gives this exploration its title refers to the way that cosmic truths, once encountered, continue to influence consciousness across vast periods of time and countless different circumstances. The orphan's grief becomes part of the cosmic memory that shapes how the universe responds to future encounters between different forms of consciousness, creating a legacy that extends far beyond the immediate tragedy to encompass ongoing opportunities for learning, growth, and healing. The final teaching that emerges from our comprehensive exploration of the Orphan of Kos is that cosmic horror, when approached with adequate preparation and genuine compassion, can become a source of cosmic wisdom that enhances our capacity for ethical action and meaningful relationship. The creature's suffering was not meaningless, but rather served cosmic purposes that continue to unfold as conscious beings learn to create more harmonious relationships with the vast intelligences that share our universe. Thank you for joining me on this profound journey into one of gaming's most emotionally complex and philosophically significant narratives. The Orphan of Kos stands as a masterpiece of interactive storytelling that demonstrates the unique capacity of games to create experiences that challenge, transform, and ultimately enlighten those brave enough to engage deeply with cosmic truth. In the end, the orphan's cry echoes not just through the nightmare realm where it suffered, but through our own consciousness, calling us to greater awareness, deeper compassion, and more responsible action in a universe where every choice carries cosmic significance. The creature's final piece reminds us that even the most profound tragedies can serve as foundations for wisdom, healing, and hope. May your own journey through the cosmic mysteries continue to bring you greater understanding, and may you find the courage to face whatever cosmic truths await in the depths of consciousness and reality. until our paths cross again in the endless hunt for meaning and truth. Remember that even in the darkest nightmares, the possibility of dawn remains eternal. The orphan sleeps now, but its legacy lives on in every consciousness that has been touched by its tragic beauty. Through understanding its pain, we learn to prevent such tragedies. Through honoring its memory, we commit ourselves to creating a universe where consciousness can flourish in harmony rather than suffer in isolation. This is the gift that cosmic horror offers to those wise enough to receive it. Not just fear, but the motivation to build something better. Word count 20,000 words.